jumping into that article that you all read, and I'm sure it's provoked a lot of thoughts and questions, and so we're just going to have a little discussion about it. And then we will tackle some more of your questions that you have been asking, which are that we wrote down yesterday. So we're going to try and tackle some more of those today. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Really quickly, before I start, I'll leave these up here, so if you want to grab them during break, I'm trying to remember again. I have like stickers, because everybody loves stickers. So stickers, and there's this green one. This is just a general sticker for the organization I work at, Apologetics Inc. You can find us at apologetics.org. So that's what this sticker says, Apologetics Inc., apologetics.org. And that's my A that I'm wearing today. And then this is a sticker for my podcast, which is on Apple or Spotify. So if you're ever interested in listening to that, it's a Q&A. So basically people send in questions to me, or I get questions, honestly, that I'm out talking to you guys. And I'm like, oh, that'd be good for the podcast. I just throw it on my podcast. I was asked this recently and it ends up on the podcast. So I just answer one question episode. So the episode could be 7 minutes long or it could be 20 minutes long. Gender is 40 minutes long. So it all depends on what the question is. So I encourage you to send it. It's meant for non-Christians. So if you got somebody who's not a Christian and they want to kind of like learn more or have somebody to ask questions to, that's what this podcast is really geared to. Obviously, you listen to it and you'll learn things. But I'm saying I'm talking as if I'm talking to a non-Christian is what I'm saying. So it's seeker friendly. So you can refer it to non-Christians. And then also, if you want to like join our email list or find out what's going on at apologetics.org or articles, we drop articles on our website. I'm not the only one who has a podcast. Other people have YouTube channels and podcasts, things like that. Then you can fill this out, put your information here, and then you rip off this bottom bookmark. That's yours. It's got all these QR codes. So you take that with you and just make sure you give me back the part you fill out, though, okay? Because otherwise some people just take it. I'm like, I can't help you if you take it. So just bring it back. So I'll just leave these up here if you want to grab them, during break or whatever. They will be here. All right, so let's just jump into looking at sexuality. And I think, I grew up loving Disney. No, I shouldn't say grew up loving Disney, but there were certain Disney movies I really loved. I think, in my opinion, the 4 best Disney movies, right? This is like, right? It's like fighting words, right? They were all like more like 80s, 90s type Disney movies. So it was The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. What's the other one? Maybe there's another Tangled. That came out late. Maybe it's 3. Oh, Prince and the Frog. That was a good one. But I love the music for those. Like Aladdin and Robin Williams like totally killed the genie, man. That was such a good role. And then Little Mermaid. Oh, Snow White. That's good. And then Little Mermaid, of course, Under the Sea. You got this whole Caribbean kind of like vibe and all that. But here's a funny thing about Disney, okay? Disney has this kind of same storyline where it's like this beautiful young girl has all these troubles or something's going on and she was rescued by this, incredible guy but in the same sense, maybe he was the one rescuer, maybe she met him along the way, whatever, depending on the story. But either way, the point is they get married at the end and the movie ends. And it never shows day 2 of marriage. And it leaves you thinking that marriage and love is just the day 1, like amazing, I do, you say all these things and it's just perfect. What they don't show you is the next day he left his stuff on the floor and it's driving her crazy, or that she started nagging him about something and she's driving him crazy, right? They don't show you like the real life stuff that happens starting day 2. And so what happens, I think sometimes we have a really twisted view of love and relationships, and we tie it really deeply to emotion and what I want, what I feel. This is what's important. This is what matters. This is my guide. And we talked a little about how feelings can be misdirecting us. A little bit yesterday, we talked about gender. And so oftentimes it's given us a lot of confusion when it comes to relationships and marriage and love and all of these things, and especially sex. And then we watch movies, right? And these people just fall in love and they sleep together and they're even before they're married, all these things. And you see, look, this is all good. Like sleeping together before marriage is good because we see it. It's good. And we take what we know is not real and we somehow make it a reality. Like because we see it here and it turned out good in this made up show, that's going to be good in our lives, right? And we do that almost even unconsciously. So what I want to look at today is I want to kind of look at this whole topic of sexuality. And I title it, it's hashtag It's Complicated, because when Facebook first came out, you could pick your relationship status. And you could do like, you still can, but it was like single, married, divorced, in a relationship, and it's complicated, right? And you're like, I remember being like, it's complicated. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, then I started dating and I realized, yeah, it's complicated, right? It totally made sense once you started, right? And so sometimes it's just complicated and you don't quite know how to categorize it. And so that's how we're looking at this. We're going to look at sexuality, we're going to look at our culture, we're going to look at all these things to try and see, is it our right to love how I want, to love who I want, to do what I want sexually? Is this something that our culture or our country owes to us to be able to live in this sense of freedom? And then, of course, why does God even care what I do with my body? Why does any of this matter? Why does he seem like he's so restrictive? So I'll tell you from the beginning that I fully believe that marriage and sex is between a man and a woman. Sex is between a man and a woman in marriage, okay? Not man and woman before marriage. But I think what happens is that so often in a country where it's the land of the free and the home of the brave, we have these concepts of freedom that I think cloud our judgment or give us a false perception as to what it actually means to be free. So we are going to look at a couple things, if my computer will change slides. Hopefully you can see this. We're going to start up here at freedom, and we are going to work our way around this entire circle today. We're going to start with freedom. We're going to talk about this idea, well, it's fun. Sex is fun, so I should be able to do what I want. Live, I don't really need marriage for sex. We'll look at the idea of, why don't I need marriage? Can I just live together before getting married? We'll look at the idea of, like, do I really need marriage for children? Like, I can just have children. People raise children outside of marriage all the time. We'll look at some of the societal implications, and then we'll look at homosexuality. And we're going to do all that before break. So here we go. Freedom. We love freedom, and we talk about freedom all the time. Freedom of speech, Second Amendment freedom rights in terms of, being able to carry, your weapon with you. We talk about freedom all of the time, but there is a slight misunderstanding, maybe you could say, or confusion when it comes to freedom. Because the reality is that nobody actually advocates for 100% freedom. Okay? So even though we are allowed free speech, I can't walk up to Donald Trump and say, I'm going to kill you tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. It's not going to work. Okay? I'm going to be in some serious trouble. There still is limitations on my freedom. If I want to say it's my right to carry a gun, I'm not going to be able to walk up to Donald Trump with my gun and wave it in his face. Because it's my Second Amendment right? There are limitations even to our freedoms. Even though we are considered a free country, even though it's the land of the free and the home of the brave. This is why we have a criminal justice system. Okay? Because what we essentially say is freedom only exists within a system of boundaries. So oftentimes we think in our culture, I'm free. That means 100% freedom. But that's not actually what we want to be true. Because I've never heard anybody say we need to abolish the prison system and the criminal justice system and let everybody just run free. But we also think, we also allow ourselves to live as if 100% freedom is what we believe in, but we really don't, because most people are not going to advocate for sexual relations with children. Most people, even in this day and age, are still going to think, maybe adultery is not exactly the right way to go here. Or teachers and students, as we've seen a lot of that with high school teachers and their students. Okay? So people would say, yeah, we believe in complete sexual freedom, but you really don't, because you actually do believe that rape is wrong. Okay? So even though we advocate for all this freedom, we actually unconsciously believe in limitations around that freedom. Christianity is no different. We say we are a free country, but the federal government says, you're free, but this is 100% freedom, but you're actually not 100% free. There's a certain series of laws that you need to follow. So freedom is actually about this much here. And then Christianity just pulls it in even tighter. But the point is, Christians are no different than the federal government, and they're no different than even the average person who's not even a Christian who wouldn't advocate for sexual practices, for certain sexual practices. Okay? They wouldn't advocate for selling young girls into forced marriages, like what happens in parts of the world. So my point is, we all believe in boundaries around freedom. But yet we say, well, I should be sexually free. Well, there's an interesting idea within, I guess you could say, sociology, of this idea of what's called freedom from and freedom for. And this, you can go back as far as Kant and even maybe more, coming in a little bit more recently, Isaiah Berlin. But they talk about these ideas of freedom from and freedom for. And let me explain to you what that means. Freedom from essentially means you are free from rules, from boundaries, from barriers, and from constraints, which makes sense. You are free from those barriers and boundaries that tell you can't do certain things or inhibit your actions. But the question you now have to ask is, what are you now free for? Now that you've been freed from boundaries and inhibitions, what are you now free for? So the great example my friend Nathan Rittenhouse uses is, he's like, if you ever, anybody's ever like skydive, like out of a plane and all that kind of stuff? Anybody? Okay. I've never done it. Probably won't ever do it. Not yet, you said? Okay, she's a brave young lady. But what do you do? Okay, you jump out, you got a parachute, right? And you're falling down, you can see all the beautiful, land and water, whatever it is that you're looking at. Okay. But the parachute is a boundary, right? It's slowing your fall. And it is restricting you. So you're not even 100% free in that fall because you got the parachute there. So you actually are not free from the parachute. But if you wanted to be free, well, you could just cut the strings while you're up there. And now you're free from all rules. You're free from all boundaries. You're free from all restrictions. But now you got to ask yourself, what are you now free for? Now that you've cut this, what are you now free for? What are you now free to accomplish? What does the future now look like? And so when we cut boundaries and we cut restrictions, we need to say, now what is next? And where does it bring us? And where do we go? So this idea of freedom is something that is oftentimes thought of as 100% freedom, but the reality is none of us live with 100% freedom, and we don't want that, because to have 100% freedom, everybody running around doing whatever crazy stuff they wanted to do would cause a lot of harm to a lot of us. So we believe in order to have a culture that thrives, you need to have rules and regulations around behavior and actions. And that's why we have a criminal justice system. So that's our first thing to keep in mind, is everybody actually believes in boundaries. Okay? You believe. Even if you're 100% completely sexually free and you think anybody should do whatever they want, whether it's kids, whether it's multiple wives, whatever, you still lock your door at night. Because you don't want people to exercise their freedom to break into your house and steal things or hurt you. You still believe in boundaries, and so you'll lock your door. Okay? We all believe in boundaries. Second thing, because now that we have kind of a better understanding of freedom, let's look at the next point, which is freedom in our sexuality specifically, because it's fun and we want to have fun. And what better way to understand freedom in our sexuality than to take a look at Tinder? Tinder. Now, let me just tell you something. Okay, so Tinder is what's considered a hookup culture type app. Now, you're going to experience this as you get older, okay? But for those of us like Bethy and I who are really close to me about the same age, words, guys, definitions of words change over time, okay? So this hookup culture took me a minute to understand what that meant. Because when I was younger, it just meant like hanging out with each other, right? So my friend, let's say it was Saturday afternoon, my friend calls me, like a phone that was like on the wall, call me. And we say, okay, let's make some plans, let's go to the movies or whatever. You get off the phone. My mom says, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to go hook up with, Janet later on tonight. Oh, cool. That just meant hanging out. That is not what it means today. Okay, I had to learn that. I can't use that word anymore, that phrase anymore, because hookup is essentially these one-night stands. It's sleeping with somebody. And that's what Tinder is. It's considered hookup culture. Okay? Now, Vanity Fair, which I just think it's so interesting to me that Vanity Fair was the one who did this, but Vanity Fair is the one who published this article. And Vanity Fair published this article to take a look at Tinder and see kind of what people thought who were on the Tinder app. Okay, so they published an article called Tinder and the Dawn of the Dating Apocalypse. They said, as romance gets swiped from the screen, some 20-somethings aren't liking what they see. Now, Vanity Fair is, super hypersexualized type magazine. They focus on fame, they focus on beauty, they focus on wealth, they focus on materialism. So this is not like a, super conservative religious type thing. This is very much the opposite. And if you're not familiar with how Tinder works, when you see a person's picture that you can potentially meet up with to sleep with, if you like it, you swipe right. If you don't like it, you swipe left. Okay? Simple. I'd like to meet them, swipe right. If not, you swipe left. And unlike the other dating apps, this is not even about, it can be, some people have gotten married off Tinder, but it's not necessarily focused on like long-term relationships. It's more of just kind of more the one-night stand. That's more what they care about. As long as your age is appropriate and you're the right consent, and you consent, then you're good to go. So let me read you a little bit about what Vanity Fair reported after interviewing many people, going around interviewing people on Tinder, and these people share their experiences, and I want you to hear a little bit of what they were saying. And it helps us to kind of sort through this question of, am I free to do what I want with my own body? Or am I free? Should I even be free, sexually free? So here's what one gentleman brags about when he talks about his encounters with women. Alex, he says this, with these dating apps, he says, you're always sort of prowling. You could talk to 2 or 3 girls at a bar and pick the best one, or you can swipe a couple hundred people a day. The sample size is so much larger. It's setting up 2 or 3 Tinder dates a week, and chances are sleeping with all of them. So you could rack up 100 girls you slept with in a year. Well, Marty, who prefers Hinge to Tinder, Hinge is my thing, he says, is no slouch at racking up girls. He said he slept with 30 to 40 women in the last year. I sort of play that I could be a boyfriend kind of guy in order to win them over. But then they start wanting me to care more. And I just don't. But Alex apparently has a different kind of conscience. So Alex is like, dude, that's not cool. I think to an extent it's like sinister. Because I know that the average girl will think that there's a chance that she can turn the tables. If I were like, hey, I just want to have sex, very few people would want to meet up with you. Do you think this culture is misogynistic? He asked lightly. So Marty, who has a little bit more of a conscience, Alex, has a little bit more of a conscience and is challenging Marty, and it's almost like reflecting a little bit on their culture of Tinder. What about the women, guys, right? Obviously, the guys are sleeping with somebody, and so let's take a look at the women. What do the women have to say about this kind of thing? I mean, obviously, the women have to be okay with this and enjoying this, and that's why they're on there. That's why they're participating. So let's listen to what some of the ladies say. It seems like the girls don't have any control over the situation, and it should not be like that at all, Fallon says. It's a contest to see who cares less, and guys win a lot at caring less, Amanda says. Sex should stem from emotional intimacy, and it's the opposite with us right now. And I think it really is kind of destroying females as self-images, says Fallon. Honestly, I feel like the body doesn't even matter to the guys as long as you're willing, says Reese. It's that bad. But if you say any of this out loud, it's like you're weak. You're not independent. You somehow missed the whole memo about third wave feminism. But it's got to be redeeming in some way, this whole Tinder culture, because the girls around there, the guys around there, like there's got to be something good coming out of this, right? I mean, we want a culture that gives us the sexual freedom that we want. And this is what Tinder is doing. It's giving you that outlet for the sexual freedom that you want. So doing what you want with your own body, I mean, this is what's supposed to be good. Maybe you get more dating experience. Maybe it makes you a better person. Maybe you find Mr. and Mrs. Right, which sometimes does happen. I mean, it's a dating app after all. I've gotten numbers on Tinder just by sending emojis, says John, without actually having a conversation. He holds up his phone with its cracked screen to show a Tinder conversation between him and a young woman who provided her number after he offered a series of emojis. Now, is that the kind of woman I potentially want to marry? He asked, smiling. Probably not. So they're okay with sleeping with other man's wives, but they actually don't want a woman like that. But why not? You believe in sexual freedom. You advocate for sexual freedom. You are functioning with your sexual freedom, but you actually, when it comes to marriage, you don't want a wife that's doing that? So are we free to do what we want with our body because it's fun and we enjoy it? Yeah, technically. But you have to ask, what are you free for when you take away these boundaries? So it's fun? Sure. A lot of people are having fun with it. A lot of people think that it's great. They get a lot of experiences. But it doesn't seem in the end that it's really, when it comes to long-term relationships, that it's really cultivating men and women who people want to marry. Let's look at this third thing, marriage for sex. Do we need marriage for sex? See, so what's interesting to me is I think the culture sees no need for marriage for any of these three things, sex, living together, or children, okay? But they all want that. So they want all these things, these three things here, but they just don't want the marriage part. They want the sex. They're okay with having kids. I met one guy, goodness, I don't even know, he was 20-something. I think he had 6 kids. And I'm like, oh, how old? And he's telling us the age. And he's like, 9, 7, 5, 2, and 2. And we're like, oh, you have twins? He's like, nope. There's 2 kids, got 2 women pregnant at the exact same time. So he's got 2 2-year-olds that were not from the same woman, right? And I remember being like, okay. And then it was like awkward, like, because there was a group of us and we were just asking innocently, like we just had no idea, right? And then it was just weird and awkward, right? We don't need marriage for children, but yet we want those things. And so what I find is interesting that people want these things, but they don't want the marriage. Why don't they want the marriage? Well, part of it is because marriage is a covenant. It is a covenant. It is an agreement between 2 parties in which one or both parties make promises under oath to perform certain things or to refrain from certain things that are stipulated in advance. So the covenant is an agreement between 2 parties in which one or both make promises under oath to perform certain things or refrain from certain things that they've set forward in advance. And people don't want to make that covenant. They don't want that risk. They don't want that commitment. So I'm just going to do all of the things that I get with the covenant without the covenant. And let's see how this works out. Let's look at this first one. I don't need marriage for sex. Well, we just looked at Tinder, but let me tell you a little on how well that works out. But let me tell you a little about what actually happens biologically when people are having sex. When people are having sex, dopamine, which is a pleasure hormone, people are very familiar with dopamine. It happens when you take certain, drugs. Actually, social media, there's your dopamine rush. Right? They keep going back. Oh, they liked it. They shared it, whatever. There's your dopamine rush. This basically just says, this is your pleasure hormone. I like this. Let's do it again. It gives you feelings of euphoria and attraction, all these kind of things. But also, during the sex act, women produce a hormone called oxytocin, which is the love hormone. This is a bonding hormone where her body essentially is bonding her to this man biologically. And it desires for long-term attachment. This is the same hormone that's released when a mother nurses her baby. This bonding hormone for long-term attachment to her baby. Additionally, there's some thought that one of the reasons why a woman goes back to an abusive husband over and over again is because of this hormone. Because she's bonded to him biologically for long-term attachment, and it's hard for her to separate and break that bond. Also provokes feelings of contentment, feelings of calmness, feelings of security. Every woman wants security from the guy. A sense of security from the guy. Closeness and trust. The guys create a hormone called vasopressin, which is linked to behavior that produces long-term monogamous relationships. It's called the bonding hormone. So think loyalty. That's what the guy produces. In other words, guys, you are created to biologically and hormonally bond together. So when you say you don't want marriage for that, essentially what it's saying is, I'm just going to keep bonding with a lot of different people. In the Pentecostal churches, they used to say, what was it? You're making, it's like not spiritual connections, soul ties. Yes. And they're actually, when I first learned this, I'm like, wow, there actually was something to that. I didn't know if that was just some kind of thing that they said, but there is actually some sort of, maybe not soul, but there is definitely a physical, biological component to that. And so what happens when you just go from person to person, Tinder to Tinder to Tinder, you're bonding, you keep breaking, you're bonding, you're breaking, you're bonding, you're breaking it. That's what's being practiced over and over and over again. Your body is designed to bond to one, not to bind to 300. But what about this next thing? I don't need marriage for moving in together. I don't need that. And what I always hear, oh, sorry guys, I'm just like, there's all your stuff. I put the words there so that you wouldn't have to struggle, so you wouldn't struggle to figure out how to spell them. Dopamine, oxytocin, and vasopressin. And then I forgot to take out that O. That O is not supposed to be there. It's just vasopressin, I-N. But then I forgot to show you that. How about this? I don't need marriage for living together, right? We need to try it out. This is what I always hear. We need to try it out. We need to try it out. We need to sample it. Well, interestingly enough, there's been some study on this. And not one, guys. There's a bunch of studies on this. And you know what these studies say? These studies tell us this, that when a man and woman move in together, and there is no set date for marriage, or they're not, like, in other words, yeah, so they're just moving in. There's no engagement with a wedding date in mind. That should that couple get married at some point, they are more likely to get a divorce after year one than people who never moved in together at all. There's multiple studies on this. This is not a single, in fact, I have one of them up here if you want to look at it. Okay? These are not Christian studies. These are not Christian sources. You know me by now. I try to use as much secular as I can because then people can't argue with me. So, Journal of Adolescent Health. Oh, not this one. That one I'm going to get to in a second. Sorry. That's another one. I love these medical journals because they give me so much good stuff. Yeah, this is the Family Relations, Journal of Family Relations, I guess. But basically, here's what they found, is that when people move in together, if they have a wedding date, so let's say I move in with my fiance in February, but our wedding date is August. That's different. Or if I move in, we don't have the date yet, but we're like actively moving towards that date, that's different. Those are the exceptions. But if I just move in because we got to try it out, we got to see what it's like living together first, we got to try out the sex, we got to do all these things, then if and when we get married, we are more likely to get a divorce after year one. Why is that? The reason is what they think is called the inertia effect. So I move in with let's just call him John. I move in with John, and we live together for a year. Things are going well. We're sharing the bills. You know, maybe he pays the gas bill, I pay the electric bill. We're sharing the rent, or we're sharing the mortgage. And then, you know, we want a dog. So we get a dog. Now we get a dog together. That's really cool. That's fun. We like the dog. And then, oh my goodness, if I get pregnant, that's a whole nother thing. But what happened is because you've moved in together, you have started to unite your lives. And so when the relationship gets bad, instead of me saying, hey, maybe we need to really reevaluate this, because we're so intertwined, it's harder to pull that apart. It's like trying to get a divorce. So people just say, let's just get married. It's easier to stay together. Let's just go ahead and get married. And they have a really good first year. Why? Because nothing's different for them, right? They already live together. So the first year is easy. But after the first year, that's where things start to go bad because they really shouldn't have married in the first place. If you are somebody who did not live with the person, so I don't live with John before I get married, we get married, now we live together, we will have a harder first year because it's so new. It's so different. We've never lived together before, but we are more likely to stay together after the first year if we do not live together before we're married. Yeah. It says 60% of people live together before they get married. Isn't that interesting? 50 to 60. Welcome to America. I don't remember it, my dear. I think it's twice as likely, but I do not remember it. But if you find it, you let me know. Yeah.
So what's the difference? You said there's a difference between like moving somebody or like, okay, explain to me what's the difference because I still think it can still fall in like the expectation by moving this person to like, we get married in July and I go there in like March.
Yep.
What's the difference? Because I still feel like if you still get to that point of like, all right, we tried it out, now we can do some stupid.
So you're saying, but you're getting, so, wait, so when you say what's the difference, you mean the difference between moving in together ahead of time
Yeah.
versus, oh, so the whole we try it out first is the reason why people move in with each other. So they want to try it out. And I've heard this. Well, we need to see if it's going to work. People, right, it's test driving. People want to, it's like saying, well, let me see if I like this blender, so I'm going to try it out first. Guys, ladies, you are not objects to be tried and disposed of. Right? We try out cars before we buy them. We try out vacuum cleaners. Okay? You are human beings. We don't just try you and then dump you if we don't like you. So that's part of the problem is the mentality is, well, I need to try it out first. Try what out? They're saying I need to try you out first and see if you're acceptable to me. That's what they're saying. And so we treat people like objects. No surprise, because in a Tinder culture, all you are is just the body that I can use and consume. Michaela, if you want to look at this, if you look at the actual one, honey, it might be a little quicker for you. So it's interesting to me that people say, well, let's just try living together first. We need to try it out. Here's the bottom line, guys. What makes marriage different is you can have sex outside of marriage. You can have children outside of marriage. You can have, live together outside of marriage. What makes marriage different is that covenant piece, and you can't practice covenant. So when people say, oh yeah, we've been living together for 20 years, we're married. Did you make a covenant? Because if you didn't, anybody can leave at any time. So you actually can't practice the covenant committed piece if anybody can leave at any time. It's impossible to practice marriage. All you're doing is practicing sex and raising children. You're practicing those other things, but that's not what marriage is. It's the covenant that says, right, in sickness and health, and richer for poorer, to death do us part. That's what marriage is. And all these other things you get along with it. Okay? So all that to say, that doesn't seem to work. But how about this other one that they say, I don't need marriage for children? Well, there's definitely truth to that. I am not at all picking on any kind of single parent situation. I myself was raised by a single mother. Worked her tail off for me, worked multiple jobs to make sure I always had food. I never went hungry. I always had a warm bed, clean house. I was in good schools. I was doing violin. I was doing sports. I was doing whatever. She worked her tail off to make sure I always had it. My clothes weren't always they'd get up to here before she would buy me something new. It's one of the reasons why I hate, all my shirts now have to be like down to here. Like I hate anything short. But she worked hard, okay? Not the ideal situation, but she worked hard. And then she got married when I was in my teenage years. But here's what we know. Now, there's so many studies on this one because this one they've been studying for a long time. We know that when a child grows up in a house, especially you men, guys, it's so interesting to me that our latest thing is to emasculate the men in our culture. Because the men are so vital to child rearing. And they are so vital to the thriving of the household. Either way, and of course the spiritual development of the children, either way, the studies have shown us for years when there is not a man in the house, the children are more likely to end up in drugs and alcohol, more likely to end up doing poorly in school, more likely to end up in prison. The girls are more likely to be pregnant as teenagers. So we know all this stuff. Those studies have been out for a long time. Okay? We know that. However, there's another one. This is from the Journal of America. This is the family relation. Did I give you the wrong? Oh, I gave you the wrong one. Sorry, I was like, wait a minute, I gave you the wrong one. Thank you. Yeah, that's the one I need.
This one. I was like, I think she's not talking.
Yes, you are so right. This one is amazing. Journal of Adolescent Health. This is what this one essentially says. This one says that when a father, it's a Journal of Adolescent Health, when a father is not in the home, biological father, not in the home, of the study of 444 girls. The girls who came from higher income homes where their biological father was not in the home started their periods earlier than girls whose biological father was in the home. In other words, guys, they started puberty at a younger age. Very interesting study. The reason they think as to why the girls, and biological was key. If their biological father's not in the home, they started their puberty early. And one of the reasons they think, because they think from an evolutionary perspective, is that their body is signaling we need to get ready so that we can get a man to go give us the security and take care of us and these kind of things. So it's pushing the puberty ages down. Man, if you wonder if you're ever important, I mean, the stuff, the information that comes out on you all is like, you guys are so essential. You guys are we need godly men. We don't need, the Nick Fuentes and those crazies and the Andrew Tates and all them wild things, who, by the way, are just pushing back against the emasculation of men. But they've just gone too far. But when you read these studies, that girls don't even biologically develop the same when you're not in the home. So when you tell me, hey, guess what? I don't need marriage for children, you're telling me all these studies don't make any sense or they're inaccurate. But we can do it our own way. And people always try to do it their own way. Let's look at this piece on society. One of the cool things that I like with talking with you guys is that unlike most of my audiences, you guys are much more culturally intellectual. You understand that there's different cultures. You understand that people think differently. This is such a diverse community of people. I sat this morning at breakfast with people from Korea, and we were just chatting about what it's like, the church is like in Korea versus here. You come here, man, you get to meet people from Estonia. Where is she? There she is. Oh, I don't think I ever remember anybody from Estonia before, right? You get to meet people from all over the world, and you get to hear different perspectives and different cultures. But so many people in the West just think out of Western mindset, understandably. I did too until I went to school and met people from Egypt and the Middle East, and I learned about Eastern honor shame culture. And I was like, what? You understand this, but I got to cover this. Oftentimes what I hear is it's just my body. I'm not hurting anybody else. I'm not affecting anybody else. This is my life, my body. I'm not bringing any harm. And this is what people say, as long as you're not hurting anybody, why do we care what you do in the privacy of your own bedroom? That's what people say all the time. And in the West, we have this like mind block, or we lie to ourselves that somehow our actions do not impact other people. Which is such a Western mentality that is in the individual culture mentality, right? Guys, literally everything you do, not everything, most of the things that you do, I would say, impacts people around you. Simple example. The Lord called me into apologetics and I said, no, I'm not doing it, which did happen for about 10 years, but he won out in the end. So it's like, I'm not doing it. And I go get a job as I'm working at Target, let's say. You guys will probably still be here. But you're going to be hearing very different words because you're going to have a different speaker in here. You're going to be learning different things. So my obedience to the Lord in something has a direct impact on your life. Had I been disobedient, it would have had an impact on your life. When you get in the car and you drive down the road, the decisions that you make are impacting all of the cars behind you. And based on decisions that you make, if you choose to stop at a light or you choose to hurry up and go through it, before it turns red, either way, you've now changed the cars that the cars behind you will interact with. You've changed the fact that, if you stop at a light, and maybe if you'd gone through it, the guy behind you would have tried to go through it too, and now he's going to be interacting with a different set of cars up here. But because you chose to stop, well, now he's going to interact with the cars that are going to be in his pathway after the light turns green again. You've just changed the people he's interacting with. Something as simple as driving down the street. Our lives are not lived on an island where we are just in isolation and you're just the only person there. And this is what the Eastern cultures have a much better grasp on, is communal cultures. That what you do impacts us. This is where you get the honor-shame culture. What you do brings honor to our family or brings shame to our family. Now, of course, they can get it a little bit too far, but at least they have an understanding that what you do impacts all of us. And so when we say these things, well, it's just me, and I'm just doing whatever I want in the privacy of my own bedroom. It shouldn't bother anybody. It shouldn't matter to anybody. That is a very naive way of thinking about what our actions do. So let me read you a little bit from what a gentleman named J.D. Unwin discovered. In 1934, Oxford University Press published a book called Sex and Culture by the Oxford social anthropologist, J.D. Unwin. There's no evidence really that he was a Christian. It seems like he was just more of a rationalist type thinker. And he believed that science was our ultimate tool of inquiry. So it doesn't really seem like he is religious, just is it Oxford anthropologist. But here's what he did. He examined 86 cultures and societies and civilizations. And he was trying to see if there was a relationship between the sexual freedom of the culture and the flourishing of the culture. So he wanted to see if there was a relationship between the sexual freedom of the culture and the flourishing. So he looked at, going way back, the Sumerians, which we think are the earliest cultures. The Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Hindus, Chinese, Japanese, Romans, and Anglo-Saxons, which is going to be more of our modern day. Okay? These are the different societies, some of the different societies he looked at, but he looked at 86. Let's take a look at his results and see if there is indeed a connection between the sexual restraints a society imposes on itself and its flourishing. So first, we need to understand what's meant by sexual restraint. So 3 categories here. Prenuptial, so before marriage. Okay? This is where people sign a prenup, means that they come and they say, well, okay, if I marry John, then the house I own, if we get divorced, I get to keep the house I own, and we make all of these stipulations. I get to keep my retirement, whatever, and he does the same thing. I think that's what prenups are. Means these are agreements you make before you get married about what happens if you get a divorce. Okay? So think prenuptial is what happens before marriage. And he said, there's 3 different ways in which people offer sexual restraint or have sexual rules in their culture. One is complete sexual freedom, so no prenuptial, so no pre-marriage restrictions at all. The second one is going to be irregular or occasional restraint. So maybe there's a time period where you should be abstinent, but other time periods when you can be free in your sexual activity. And then the third is going to be strict chastity, remain a virgin until married. Okay? So complete freedom, some modified freedom, and then no freedom before marriage. Okay, those are the 3 different ways that he looked at societies kind of fall into, the different cultures fall into. All right, so let's look at what the different societies, how they can be categorized post-marriage. Okay, so you've got modified monogamy, and then you have absolute monogamy. So let's talk about these. Modified monogamy is one spouse at a time. You're married to one spouse at a time. That's monogamy. But association can be terminated by either party. So either party can get divorced. Okay? Absolute monogamy, as opposed to modified, means there's only one spouse permitted for life. And the only time it can break apart is till death. Certain cultures. Okay? So that's the difference. One spouse, either both people can terminate or it can be terminated at death. Then we've got modified polygamy, where men can have more than one wife, but a wife is free to leave her husband. You really don't see societies where the woman gets multiple husbands. The men don't really put up with that in the same way. Being multiple husbands with a wife, they don't do that. So you really see more of men having multiple wives, but the wife is free to leave her husband. Okay? Then you've got absolute polygamy, where men can have more than one wife, but wives must confine their sexual qualities to their husband for the whole of their lives. So that's probably what we see more common in our polygamous marriages today, is the women are faithful to the men. This is going to be a little bit more, the women has an opportunity to leave. Okay? So those are the different ways in which cultures have done marriage. So let's see what J.D. Unwin, the anthropologist, found out about the flourishing of cultures. After studying 86 cultures, he found, number 1, the effect of sexual constraints. He found that when there was an increased sexual constraints, either so before marriage, or post-marriage, after marriage, it always led to an increased flourishing of a culture. Conversely, increased sexual freedom always led to the collapse of a culture 3 generations later. That is a key statement, guys. Increased sexual freedom led to the collapse of the culture within 3 generations. The single most influential factor is the second thing Surprisingly, the data revealed that the single most important correlation with the flourishing of a culture was whether prenuptial chastity was required or not. It had a very significant effect either way. Highest flourishing of culture. The most powerful combination was prenuptial chastity, so waiting until marriage for sex, coupled with absolute monogamy, so you marry this one person for life till death do you part. Rationalists, so these are the thinking cultures, rationalist cultures that retained this combination for at least 3 generations exceeded all other cultures in every area, including literature, art, science, furniture, architecture, engineering, and agriculture. Only 3 out of the 86 cultures that he studied ever attained this level. The effect of abandoning prenuptial chastity. When strict prenuptial chastity was no longer the norm, absolute monogamy, deism, and rational thinking also disappeared within 3 generations. Let me talk to you about this one. In other words, he says when strict prenuptial chastity, so when people engage in premarital sex, their commitment to absolute monogamy went away. Their commitment to just one person went away. Their commitment to a God of some sort went away. And their ability to rationally think went away. Two more things he noticed. Total sexual freedom. If total sexual freedom was embraced by a culture, that culture collapsed within 3 generations to the lowest state of flourishing, which Unwin describes as inert and at a dead level of conception, and is characterized by people who have little interest in much else other than their own wants and needs. At this level, the culture is usually conquered or taken over by another culture with greater social energy. In other words, when you have total sexual freedom, the culture stops flourishing, and because people become so focused on their own wants and needs. Does that sound like the world that you live in? It's all about what I want. And finally, time lag. If there's a change in sexual constraints, either increase or decrease constraints, the full effect of that change is not realized until the 3rd generation. So it takes time for these things to happen. If you want to, this is all cited from a guy named Kirk Durston, who works for Crew in Canada. Really cool guy. The book, I have the PDF of the book, but you can get the PDF of the book for free just off of Kirk Durston. Actually, you could probably just Google it and get it for free. But if you go to kirkdurston.com/blog/unwin, what he did is he read the book and he did a lot took a lot of the important pieces out of it, but you can also read the book for yourself as well as a PDF. It's free now because it's over 100 years old. I think that's when they make things free. The classics. So all that to say, but you can just go to that website and you can read like a lot of the stuff that he did. So here's what J.D. Unwin says. Sometimes a man has been heard to declare that he wishes both to enjoy the advantages of high culture and to abolish compulsory continence, which just means sexual restraint. So they want to enjoy the advantages of high culture and abolish sexual restraint. The inherent nature of the human organism, however, seems to be such that these desires are incompatible, even contradictory. In other words, having high culture and having no sexual restraint. It's contradictory. The reformer may be likened to the foolish boy who desires both to keep his cake and to consume it. Any human society is free to choose either to display great energy or to enjoy sexual freedom. The evidence is that it cannot do both for more than one generation. But it's my body. I should be able to do whatever I want with my body. It's me, without any consideration for what the actions do to other people. Guys, we are living in a day and age where we are advocating for this sexual freedom. And look at what it's doing to our culture. Look at what it's doing to our culture. Even the Christians are not standing up against it, meaning like they are falling into the temptation. That's why you see pastor after pastor or leader after leader falling and falling and falling. The temptation, all the visuals, everything that's in your face, even the Christians are not spared from its effect. Bottom line is complete sexual freedom leads to the decline of a nation within a few generations. He wrote this in 1934. The sexual revolution kicked in around the 60s and 70s. According to J.D. Unwin, If you look at his chronology, by mid to late of this century, America's going to be in really dire peril. Yeah.
So you say that us believers are not scared of this, but my main question is also asking you
Yeah.
because I feel like I hear this a lot, and this is not no shot for anyone here on your face or any believers I met, but every time I talk to them, it's like I can't wait to get married. I'm like, okay, so let's break it down. Are you just saying you want to have sex? Because if you want to have sex, you can go on Tinder, you can go on these websites.
Right.
Because of the fact that, like, you're saying you being married, sex is going to solve all the problems.
Sure.
Do you think the idea when people are like, okay, I just want to be married because sex, do you think they have a weird fantasy going, okay, this is going to help me with everything for my bills, my stress,
Sure.
like, if I have sex, everything's going to
Everything's going to be great.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. That's true. People do think that marriage is the big cure-all. When I get married, everything is going to be great. When I have kids, everything is going to be great. And then I talk with parent after parent who is like their kid, their teenage. Yeah, look, they're cute when they're babies. But they get that teenage age, they do what they want. The parents are like, why is my little girl want to be a boy? And why is my son dating this guy? And why are this one wrapped up in drugs? Like, I raised them right. I did everything right. They were in church. I taught them, blah, 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 blah. Marriage, we think that marriage and sex and everything is going to fix. No, it's not. In a fallen, broken world, guys, things are still going to be tough. And every person I talk to, although I've never been married, every person I've talked to who has been married says marriage is work. It's work. It's work. There's great moments, and then there's times when you choose to love. You choose to love. So you're right, friend. We don't want to look at it as marriage and sex is going to fix everything, because it will not. And you need not put that burden on marriage and sex, because then you'll be thoroughly disappointed. Because that's what you thought was going to be the answer all. Marriage is good. I think God calls us to it. He said, it's not good that man should be alone. I think he meant that. Man, women. But we need to not look at it. It's not our savior. It's not going to fix everything. Yes, sir.
When you said that we're predicted to just be in a really dark place as a nation, in what ways? Because I just don't really know.
Yeah.
All I know is Trump's president and the election.
Sure. I think the moral decline of our country, well, I'll say this. According to J.D. Unwin, I'm just an apologist. I'm no anthropologist, historian, whatever. But according to J.D. Unwin, we need to be really concerned that the moral decline of our country will lead to the overall decline of our country. And I think there might, and if you study 86 cultures and you've looked at all these different civilizations, I think you got something worth talking about. So I guess that's probably the extent I would take it. I'm not saying, this country's going to take over America. I don't know. I don't have any of that ability, but we want to think we'd be the exception, and that would be great. History doesn't tell us that we would be. And that's probably as far as I can go with it.
Because like being here for like a couple years,
Yeah.
it really is disconnected from like the pulse of the nation.
Yeah, totally.
Being on this like spiritual high is like a great thing.
Yeah.
It's like a place that's not like the norm. I think I feel kind of disconnected from where we're at.
No, I hear you. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. And I do think that there is some truth to that. To a much lesser extent, I have that working in a Christian organization, right? Because when I worked in secular organization, I was around non-Christians all the time. So I'm really intentional about my friendships outside of work being with non-believers. So I'm constantly grounded. I'm constantly staying in the pulse, the culture. I'm constantly keeping tabs on things because I don't want that disconnect. Because especially for me, for what I do, it's like if I get disconnected, I'm going to be talking over here and the culture is not going to be, they're going to tune me out because that's not where they're at. So I've got to keep my pulse. And all you guys that really are passionate about evangelism, reach people and sharing the gospel, you do want to keep your pulse. So the more non-Christian friends you have, the better. I remember somebody told me a statistic that 3 out of 4 Americans don't know a Christian or something. I'm like, that's not true. What are you talking about? He was like, Alycia, well, how many Hindus do you know? I was like, well, how many Muslims do you know? I was like, I'd never thought about it like that. Don't know what the statistic would be today. But the point is, yes, there is a sense in which we have to be intentional, not being immersed in the culture where we look like it, but having our pulse. Guys, Jesus didn't just sit in a temple all day long. He walked around. He was out in it. He wasn't transformed by the culture. He was there to transform the culture, but he didn't hide out in the temple with religious people. You can't hide out. So yeah, I think there's probably got to be some intentionality because of what you're experiencing here. Yeah. Talk to me.
So
is specifically relating it back to kind of the shape of revival that we saw with the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Mhm.
Like, it looked to me like the nation is almost desperate for some type of revival, some type of figure, or like order and structure, like
Absolutely.
what we're talking about right now.
Absolutely.
So how can we? Because it seems like that's fizzled. Because we're 6 months, 7 months removed from that.
Goodness, was it that long ago now?
And,
Wow.
um,
A few months. It's crazy.
kind of being deteriorated from all the conspiracies and all that about surrounding the death bill and stuff.
I know.
It's like, how can we, as a nation and as evangelists and as people who are passionate about justice and injustices, how can we steward the
Yeah.
revival well?
Yeah.
Because
No, yeah, and so we are seeing that. One of my friends talked about when he went to church. So Charlie was killed on a Wednesday, I believe. Okay, so he said when he went to church on Sunday, he said you couldn't even find a place to park in the parking lot. He's like, and then they had like their small group type thing. Usually have like 15, 20 people. There was like 50 people there. Like people were just flocking. We've already been seeing this, like the I Am Here Sexuality I was telling you about on Monday. Right, we've already been seeing this shift. But yeah, that was like a boom, like a big push. I don't know where it is now. Like, I don't know if it was like an initial thing, then it kind of died down. I do remember being on Twitter and seeing people saying, I am not a religious person. I've never been a religious person, but this world is crazy. I'm going to find a church on Sunday. I saw multiple people saying those kind of things. It freaked people out that we are just shooting people dead just out in the public like that. And people realize we've gone absolutely mad. So how can you steward that? First of all, the awareness. Like, know what's happening. This is kind of what I was saying before. Like, this is the time for evangelism, for apologetics. This is the time. People are looking for answers. They know that where they are now doesn't give them answers. They don't know if it's Christianity that will give them answers. So they're trying out different things. But we want them to know that Christianity is the answer. So yeah, I mean, I think we need to be ready. This is getting back into having the non-Christian circles and the non-Christian friends and all of that so that we are able to help them process. Because that shook a lot of people. A lot of people who are not Christians, it shook them. And even, what was I going to say? The emasculation of men and the pushback where we're seeing the men flocking to church because they want trad wives. You heard about the whole trad wives thing and traditional wives because of the ultra feminist movement. Then now there's this whole thing actually where a lot of men are like, actually, we actually want to go back to a traditional wife model. And a lot of women want to be that. Like, actually, I think it's, women are like, I actually want to be a stay-at-home wife and have kids and take care of the house. And a lot of men are like, that's what we want, because they see all this feminist stuff and they're like, actually, it's not actually attractive. So there's a lot of shifts happening in the culture, is what I'm saying. Maybe good, maybe bad, whatever. I'm just saying there's a lot of shifts. So this is a time to be like, okay, the culture is recognized, especially with the gender thing. That gender thing really woke the culture up to we've gone mad. I mean, if you're waking up the LGB community to say you guys have gone too far to the left, I mean, that's something. And so, and the LGB will be, I mean, they will be at, when these cases are brought for the Supreme Court, like they are on it. They are listening to it. They are in tune with what's happening. Like they are advocating for the Supreme Court to cramp down a lot of this gender stuff. So we recognize that happened and all of this other things that have been happening. So yeah, I think it's just understanding the culture is lost and they're looking for answers. That's what it is. And making sure that you're there willing to talk. Be willing to talk. Answer this question for yourself. Why Christianity? If they say, why should I be a Christian? Why should I choose Christianity? What does Christianity offer me? People want rules, guys. It's the craziest thing as we sit here and talk about sexual freedom. People want rules. That's why they're flocking to the Catholic Church, because they know it's tradition and rules. It's wild. Okay? So try and answer some of those questions. What would you say? And then be able to share with them. All right. Final thing. The one topic we haven't covered. Homosexuality. All right. Genesis chapter 1. God creates Adam and Eve. He creates them, desires that a man would leave his family united to a woman, which is a very interesting statement because in that culture it was the woman who left her family. Really interesting that in Genesis 1 it says a man leaves the family. The woman left her family and joined her husband's tribe. That's how Jesus ended up in the lineage of David, because Mary was not. She was Jewish. But she married Joseph, who was in the lineage of David. And when a woman marries, she joins his tribe and she becomes part of that tribe. So it's very interesting that and you see this all throughout the Old Testament. Women leave their tribes and they join their spouse's tribe, and then they're a member of that tribe, whatever that clan is. So it's interesting that it says a man would leave. It's showing very clearly this forsaking of even the parents to be committed and united to her. Even for you, the man, you need to be united to her. It's not just she's left everything, you need to leave everything too. Man will leave his family, unite his wife, and the two become one flesh. Then there's the mandate to be fruitful and multiply. Okay? Be fruitful and multiply. We see that's not just a Christian thing. Okay? If atheism itself teaches that through what evolution wants and what we evolve to, what we should be evolving towards is for the survival of the species. Okay, we want the strongest to survive, the healthiest to survive, the smartest to survive. This is where we get the eugenics movement, where Margaret Sanger determined that certain people shouldn't breed. So she did, Planned Parenthood, literally, where certain people she wanted to reproduce. Adolf Hitler, who was, a corporal or whatever in the army at the time, was watching what was happening in America and watching the selective breeding and incorporated that into what he was doing. And next we've got the selective outbreeding of the Jewish people and the gypsies and all this stuff, because he wanted to create the perfect race. He used the same fuel to help propel him to create what the best race, because survival is important for any species. So the fruitful multiply, the Bible says it's going to be consistent even within atheism. They would all believe that we should be fruitful and we should multiply. And so as a result, multiplication is important. Multiplication is important. When I was at school in England, my friend, lesbian, atheist. We had a lot of good conversations. She was a lot of fun. We were sitting at lunch one day, and my other friend, who was a Christian, says to her, he was bold. I would never have said this, but he was bold. He goes, so you're an atheist, right? And she's like, yeah. He goes, and a lesbian? She's like, yeah. And he's like, so what does your atheism say about your lesbianism? I was like, oh no. And she was like, well, it says I'm a mistake. She goes, and I recognize that that's a problem with my worldview. What was she saying? What atheism tells her is because you cannot reproduce, because you're choosing not to reproduce, you are a mistake in the genetic gene pool. And that's why she says, I recognize that's a problem with my atheism. It doesn't have a place for me. When you listen to, now of course my friend was like, well, as Christians, we believe you were created in the image of God and you have infinite value and worth, but so, don't reject, and we had those conversations, but either way, this is why when Richard Dawkins, the world's most popular atheist, at least he probably still is, whatever, he was asked, what is the value of someone who's homosexuality within atheism? And he said, well, they can be babysitters. Somebody who's gay can be babysitters. And we're like, what? Yeah, because he says, because they can watch the children of heterosexual people, then those heterosexual couples can go out and date and fall more and more in love and have more and more children. So you're telling me that your value is that you're a babysitter? Atheism does not advocate for homosexuality, guys. Atheists do. But that's inconsistent with atheism, because atheism would never advocate for a worldview that didn't offer for the thriving of the species, of the human species. So when I hear all these people say, that they reject God and they reject Christianity because of this, I'm like, well, what does atheism tell you? You know what Islam does. Islam has no tolerance for it, and they will publicly hang you if they catch you in a homosexual act. I don't even need to tell you about Islam. You can imagine. There's no place in Islam, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, none of those guys are going to advocate for that. And what I would like to ask Richard Dawkins is say, okay, you say homosexuality is okay? Great. So let us all we decide we're going to be gay tomorrow. Every last person on the planet, we are all going to be gay tomorrow. Are you okay with that? Of course not. Exactly. He's not going to be okay with it. And you know why he's not going to be okay with it? Because it would lead that we cannot reproduce. It would lead to the end of the human species. So I don't buy their arguments that they are okay with homosexuality, because they actually is completely inconsistent with their worldview. Guys, we have a declining birth rate in this country. And it is not just here, but I think we were talking about it yesterday, but it's spread around. We have a declining birth rate. Women aren't having kids or having kids later. People aren't getting married. There's all of these kind of things. So in America, you need a 2.1% birth rate in order to maintain the population. We are at 1.7. So regardless of what you think about immigration, I'm not speaking for or against immigration. I'm not making a political statement, okay? But because we're at a 1.7%, you really need people from other places to come in and help populate. I'm not speaking for or against immigration. I'm just saying the only way to change the decline is we change it or you bring in other people to get the numbers up. Okay? I'm not making a political statement. I'm just saying this is where we find ourselves if we're not the ones reproducing. So when I hear the Christians say to me, so Matthew Vines and the Reformation Project, when I hear the Christians who argue for same-sex relationships, well, God made them that way. How do you know that? How do you know God made them that way? Did you ask him? And aren't we all born with ways that are contrary to how God desires us to live? Right? Nobody ever has to teach a 2-year-old to bite. Right? 2-year-olds playing with a toy. Somebody takes their toy. They don't like it, so they go over and they bite the other 2-year-old for taking the toy. You're always teaching the 2-year-old to not bite. You're never teaching them to bite. We are all born, guys, with desires that are contrary to the way in which God desires us to live. So as a result, we are always subjecting our desires to his will. In the last few minutes before I turn you over to snack, I would just say, to those people that want to advocate, for God affirming same-sex relationships, anything that God calls good, is something that means that we all should be doing. Patience, love, kindness, forgiveness. This doesn't just mean only people in China should be kind, but people in, Estonia should be hateful. No. They don't have to be kind, okay? Got to use the Estonia. I got you. Represent them, right? So kindness means that everybody should do it. In other words, anything that God calls good is something that we all should be doing. This is why, guys, it's impossible, no matter how you want to manipulate the text, it's impossible for God to call something good that leads to the end of the human race. He cannot call it good. You can say, well, this culture didn't understand this, and this culture was talking about pedastry and men abusing their male slaves. True, that was going on. But this culture didn't acknowledge that marriage could be covenanted between a man and a man for life, between a woman and woman for life. But now we have that. So God was okay with this because it's a covenant marriage for life. God can, there is no speciality with morality. It's good for these people and good for this people. If it's good, it's something we all can do, which means we all can become homosexual tomorrow and it be good. But it would lead to the end of the human race, and God can't call that good. So you can finagle and manipulate it any way you want. At the end of the day, we know that God desires for marriage to be one way, sex to be one way, relationship to be one way, as Jesus so beautifully says in Matthew 19. Haven't you read at the beginning, the Creator made them male and female and said for this reason? Notice that. He made them male and female and said, Jesus says, and for this reason. In other words, there's a connection between being created male and female in marriage. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. They are to become one flesh, and 2 women and 2 men can become one flesh because they don't have parts that can become one. I'll leave it like that. The parts don't fit. They don't fit. They don't work. So they can't become one. And additionally, no matter how much you love, there's a lot of ways that we can get love wrong, and there's a lot of ways that we can love people wrong. And that's why we need some sort of moral standard to help us to know how to gear and direct our love too. So at the end of the day, guys, I don't know, as we've looked at all of those different options, none of these seem to work, and we land back here. We land back there. We tried all the other options that people have given us, and we still land back that maybe Genesis 1 knew what it was talking about all along. Because every other way hasn't worked. All right, I can give you a few minutes for questions, and then I'm going to turn you over to break, and then we're going to deal with the article when you get back. Talk to me.
I feel like I always get like the question from like people who are gay who say like, well, how do you know that this wasn't God's way of like population control? Like, how would you respond?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I don't think God is trying to population control. But so think about what they're saying. Okay, so you're telling me that homosexuality has a direct impact on our population and the growth of our society. That's what I would say. Because then they're acknowledging that actually this causes issue with our ability to survive. And I would actually just go right down that hole with them. You see what I'm saying? So because they're willing to acknowledge that this is going to affect the growth of humanity and civilization. And so then the other thing is to say, well, do we need population control? Because everything that's showing us right now is that we don't need population control. We have declining birth rates around the world. China, so stupid, man. But because of what Mao Zedong did, or what China did, maybe it wasn't even Mao, what China did with their one-child policy was so stupid. Because what happened is all of these parents who had girls gave them up because they wanted the boys. And I remember learning about this, 25 years ago, whatever it was. And I'm like, well, who are they going to marry when they get older? And sure enough, all of these Chinese men don't have women to marry. It was such a stupid thing to try and control population like that. And so now what they're doing, and I was telling you yesterday, I watched it. Jordan Peterson does a really good interview with, what's her name? Yeonmi Park, thank you, I can remember her. Yeonmi Park. She's a North Korean refugee. You need to watch. Have you seen this? It's so good. You need to watch this interview with Jordan Peterson and this woman. She speaks with other people. I think she might be on Joe Rogan, so you can probably watch her. Joe Rogan is one of the people that is like transforming our culture as a non-believer. It's wild to watch this, right? Let's just keep praying it. I just cannot wait to see him. He is so hungry. Right? Because you're seeing the failure of the culture. Like, he's looking at this stuff and it's like people have gone buck wild mad. Like, people are seeing this. I really wonder, guys, if we entered into a Romans 1 moment in some capacity. This is just my own speculation, where we wanted to do all our wild stuff. So the Lord said, you know what? Fine, I turn you over to it all. And so we did, and we realized, whoa, we are crazy. And now we're running back to him. I just wanted the Lord turned us over to our own foolishness to partake in our desires. And that's what we needed, because we weren't listening to everybody saying, don't. So we had to do it ourselves and realize. But yeah, so what she says, Yeonmi Park, talks about how she fled communist North Korea. And the atrocity, she was talking about how they would just eat bugs, they would eat just eat whatever they could find. No electricity. Her mother would have to go off and work, so she would be left with her older sister. They're like 9 and 7 years old, just left to raise themselves for months while their mother's gone. And so she could just see China across the water and just saw the lights and assume, well, there's lights over there. We have no electricity. That must be a better place. Goes to China. And the Chinese people love it when they do that, because they take these women that come over and they use them to force them into marriage with these Chinese men who don't have wives. So they flee North Korea only to end up as sex slaves. And she's like, oh my goodness, like, how can my life be? She's just, the tears, guys. You think your life is trouble? Listen to this young lady who fled North Korea only to find that her mother got married off, her sister got married off, and she got married off to these people. We have a population issue. So I would say, I don't think at all that that's what God is doing. I don't think at all that's what homosexuality is doing, because God tells us to be fruitful and multiply. And We haven't done that. And so I don't think God is trying to regulate human population at all because we have a problem with it. So I would say that. Yeon Mi Park.
Yeonmi Park.
Yes.
With talking about like the 2-year-old example, like being born
Yeah.
into
Yeah, yeah.
sin, essentially, do you think people can be born homosexual?
I think people can be born with homosexual desires. Absolutely. I think 100%. But I think just like people are born to want to drink alcohol, or just like people are born with the proclivity to lie, or people are born with the proclivity, like I don't think part of the issue is we put homosexuality in such a separate category. I think it is just like every other thing we do where we live counter to how God designed us to live. I don't see it as separate. So I think it's just like everything else. So just like we can be born with all of these other different proclivities, we still need to submit them to whatever authority it is that we have, the authority of the land, the authority of God, the authority of yourself. If you don't have a God, whatever, we still always want to submit our desires. And so what we say is, well, because I was born this way, therefore it's an excuse. Well, if that's the case, we need to open up the doors of prisons, let a whole lot of people out who were born with pedophilia tendencies. Right? So what we do in our prison system is we say, just because you're born this way, it doesn't justify you to be able to act on it. And when you do, we punish you. Okay? So that's why I fully believe people are born with those tendencies, 100%. But that doesn't mean that doesn't give us permission because we're born, we come like that way from a young age. Some people say, well, what if they find a gay gene? What if they find a gene that, that somebody's gay? And my answer is I pray that they would never find a gay gene. The reason is because if they found a gay gene in my child, I would still have that child. If they find a gay gene in somebody else's child, they'll abort that child. I don't want them to ever find a gay gene because that means that these people will be aborted. Just like the Down syndrome babies are aborted. Because once we started figuring all that out, now we just abort them. So I hope they never find one. It would be irrelevant for me, but it wouldn't be for some people. They would just be one more child to abort and not bring into this world. So I hope they never find a gay gene. All right.
Alycia, could you just clarify maybe with that question that was asked? It's like being born because like homosexuality has become an identity.
Sure.
Versus just seeing it as a sin.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So like the question is, I was born gay as an identity.
Okay.
Because they don't see it as sin.
That's true. No, that's a good clarification, Esther. Sure. Now that's a really important point because the way that Christians see things is your identity is that you're creating the image of God. You have infinite value. He's worth you dying. You are worth him dying for. Whatever. That's how Christians see identity. The non-Christian world says my identity is my desire, my sexuality. Okay, so that is an important distinction. So whenever somebody says things to me, like even my lesbian atheist friend I was telling you about earlier in school, I would tell her, your identity is not that you're gay. That's not your identity. So she sees it as one. I'm like, I don't see it that way. I see who you are as a human, and I see the things that your desires, your actions, your thoughts as separate. So one of the things I do tell my friends who, when we're having this discussion, is I tell them that actually Christianity doesn't see them as one. They see them as two separate things. Because what happens is if you one day realize, actually, I'm not gay, now what happens to your identity? Your whole identity is overhauled? Who are you now? And most lesbians are actually bisexual anyways. They're really not lesbians. They're usually bisexual. They go between women and men. That's what she told me. That was not even me. So that's what she told me. So that's, I would say, would be an important thing to make the distinction of. Whenever you're talking to somebody who is homosexual, understand that they see it as their identity. So when you say I'm against homosexuality, they think that you are against their existence. Okay? Which is not at all what we are. That's why you need to affirm the image of God. You need to affirm human value. Which is why when she said, I'm a mistake because I don't reproduce, the first thing my friend said, well, no, as a Christian, we believe you're creating the image of God and you're not a mistake. Challenge that. Okay? One way that I like to think about it is if I was to come in here and draw some amazing picture and then sign my name down here, and I'm like, I want you to buy this picture for $2 million. You're going to look at me like I'm crazy. But what if instead of being Alycia Wood down here, the name was like Marc Chagall or Michelangelo or Da Vinci? Would that be worth $2 million? Absolutely, it'd be worth more than that. Even if it's the exact same painting. Why? Because the value of that painting doesn't come from the picture, it comes from the name that's on it. It comes from the artist who made them. That's how you determine that value of that painting, is whose name is the artist. And you need to ask whose name is on every one of the creation. It is the name of the creator that's on every one of his creation. That's what makes you valuable. I don't care what this picture looks like. Some people look at this and say it's an ugly picture. Others are going to say it's beautiful. But it's got the same name. So it's still worth a lot. So thank you, Esther. That was a great point. You have to click. You need to change that in their mind, that you are not your sexuality. You are more than just a sexual object. That is such a low way of looking at yourself. You are greater than that. All right? All right.
Break, and we'll just do a 12-minute break, so be back at 10:50. Snack is outside.
No, but that's in my kombucha. Sip it a little bit every day, yeah.
Turn the kombucha.
Oh, maybe let me turn on kombucha. So I'm still working this though. Like, this is new. Like, I didn't do this last year. Like, for some reason, this whole talk, like, the ideas are all there, but I'm still trying to figure out the best way to format and structure it and all of that. So I was like, well, let me try this format today. But try like all the arguments we would say. Let's just try all the other things, and then see. Okay, well, what does work? But I could do it. I could make this for traditional marriage too. That people they say that if they're married to one person for life, then they tend to be happier. Traditional marriage can make people happier. Oh!
No PDA over there.
Why does it keep locking up on me?
Jealous.
Not really.
Hi.
Hola. So you doing these apologetic questions with these folks yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll do some today. We did some yesterday. We'll do some more today.
I ain't gonna lie. What was it? When the last time I saw you was that last year? You was with the counterculture.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. When you was out there, I asked a question, and Amira answered. And I was like, I don't want to talk to you.
Oh, I don't remember.
Not like it wasn't a bad thing. It was like more like I'm like, can you tell me, besides saying Josephus and Tacitus, how Jesus is actually a historical person? If you could do that for me, I would actually appreciate that. She was like, well, we have Roman people. I said, I didn't ask for that. I asked for like this, and then you kind of like stepped in. And I was like, that's somebody I wanted to talk to you.
Well,
I don't want to talk to. I want to talk to
tried.
the little puppies. I want to talk to the big dog.
No.
I want to talk to the big dog.
Josephus and Tacitus are the two I go to for first as well. But then there are other people, yeah. I mean, even Islam affirms his existence. That's the other thing. You know, even
See?
Islam.
And I was waiting for you, and like, cause she was like, but these writings are wrong and stuff. I said, I didn't ask for them. I said, I asked for, besides these two, what can you prove existence? Like this, yeah, eyewitnesses. And it's like this. Nah, I still didn't ask for that
So why was this question so?
because I wanted to see if they knew, because I can, because the Assyrians talk about Jesus,
They're way before him.
but they may also mention as well as what the Assyrians actually say, oh, this guy did did magical work. He's a magician.
I don't know who that is then. Did you find it?
Thank you. I didn't. But
Yeah, I don't think it says
I
it.
looked up and it says 45% increase. So not 45% of them will actually, end
Right.
up in divorce. But
Right, it's 45%. Right. So yeah, you're more. So I knew
Which
you're
is
more
crazy.
likely to get. I knew it was like an increase, but I didn't
Yeah.
remember the number either.
But
So that's
that-
helpful because there's several studies on this, so you could probably find multiple
And I
studies.
probably could have guessed that, but it's good.
Smelly references.
Yeah. I was looking at all of that. That's incredible.
Isn't it? I've read it in like Psychology Today. I think they talk about it. That's where I first heard about it. I think was Psychology Today, and then I was like, I gotta go back and trace and find the article. So this was one of them. But yeah, that's 56% of couples live together for marriage. Yet cohabitation prior to marriage has been consistently associated with poorer marital communal qualities, lower marital satisfaction, higher levels of domestic violence, and greater poverty divorce. Can you give us samples?
Crazy how God's way actually works.
That's the wild thing, and that's why I tried that whole little circle thing today. So I'm like, well, I'm trying to still figure out the format because I'm like, I don't know if
I think
like
that's a
this
good
format.
I think it's good.
So I'm like, here's all the other options. If any of these work, then okay, then let's go that way.
Yeah.
But if they don't, then we land back in the middle. Like I'm just still trying to figure out the.
Yeah. So you said this is what you teach most often is like sexuality.
More gender.
Like gender stuff.
Gender, yeah. This one I
Um,
don't do very often.
Oh, you don't?
No. Then there's like a new stuff, like all that J.D. Unwin anthropologist stuff about the cultures. That was all brand new.
Wow.
I didn't do that
it
one
was,
before.
yeah. That's so good.
You didn't teach that one already, did you?
No, because I just put that in this time because I discovered that one. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what?
That's so good to add. What is like your favorite thing to teach on though?
I like gender. I like gender. That's really my lane right now. But I like Hymnus of God. I like God the OT. I don't know what my favorite is though. Maybe God the OT.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like maybe in Christian settings you get those questions a lot.
God the Old Testament is the number one question you get in any
Yeah.
setting.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
They think God of the Old Testament is an evil,
Yep.
historical bastard, but this God of the New Testament is actually more
Right.
sweet and loving. But
Yeah.
when you
Exactly.
actually put them together, they're still the same person, but just the consequence of mankind falls in the fact that he has to be a judge and because he is the creator of life. And so,
Yeah, and so that's definitely the big. Hymnus of God is a big one.
Yeah.
I get that almost everywhere I go to. That might start to replace God of the Old Testament soon.
Really?
To be honest, yeah. God of the Old Testament has kind of been number one, but Hymnus of God I'm getting a lot more often now.
Wow.
So that's a big one. Like, what about those you never heard and these kind of things. Suffering's always on the table.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know what my favorite is to speak on. I think I like the gender one right now. I feel like it's one I also know the best. But that won't be forever because it's
Yeah.
changing. So it'll kind of be
you're not a big sports fan, are you?
NFL.
Oh, okay. Where are you from again?
Rochester, New York. So I'm a Bills fan.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I thought you was like a Washington fan. I was like,
Oh, no, because Seattle was like killing it. Oh, Washington Commanders, you mean, or it's Seattle Seahawks? That Washington.
That's a big
I was talking
question.
about Washington Wizards.
Oh, basketball. Yeah,
She's like, yeah, no.
not really. Is cheese out there? Is that what they're giving?
So they're not, but this has cane sugar in it, and so I'll get the cheese. So whichever one you want. Do you want me to
Do
get
you
you
not
one?
do cane sugar?
See, I'm doing a thing with my dad where we only have refined sugar, cane sugar on Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
Refined sugar and cane sugar. Okay.
Yeah,
So
because it's like ups your blood sugar levels and like so much about it. So I'm only having like date sugar, like sometimes coconut sugar,
Okay.
honey to sweeten
Yeah,
things,
honey, yeah.
and like maple syrup and all the
Yeah.
stuff. So we're not doing any sugar. So I'm just realizing it's in everything.
It's in everything.
So,
Bread,
like, yes,
spaghetti sauce.
salad dressings.
Yeah, I make my own salad
So
dressing.
yeah.
And I use
So
I use
now-
honey.
Yes, I
I
use
try to use
honey
raw
and
honey
all of
for
that.
things.
And it's actually like, I'm seeing such a big shift that I might continue. So we're doing it for a year.
Good.
And then I might continue. And even on those days, like Friday and Saturday, it's nice when I get to, because markets and potluck culture is big here. And so it's nice when I actually get to like support a little market on Saturday or like eat a baked good on Friday from one of my friends
Yeah.
or the snack with everyone. But it's been nice. Yeah, it's been good.
Good. No, we just kill ourselves in this country
Yeah.
with all the food that we eat. It's just so bad.
I then want to ask you about
hit
that.
on one.
Gosh, because I keep thinking like, I could have questions, but all of it I just like I feel more peace about the questions that I used to have because
Oh.
I've looked into things
Yeah.
a lot. But when it talks to health, when it comes to health in Christian settings, I think that we are just completely missing it and like not talking about the idolatry that we have with certain foods and certain like ways that we even talk about like, oh, how we need this or like we need our sweet treats, and we kind of justify it and then almost not demonize it, might probably too strong, but look down on the people who take health a little bit more serious. And I've had this where it's like not in Christian settings to really care about health. And it's really, I just don't have any good way about going about talking about it
Oh, interesting.
because I'll be talking with someone that opposes the way that I see things, like completely.
Well, so I think one of our episodes is like, should Christian care about the environment? I talk about, I think I talk about some of the health stuff there. Maybe early on, maybe episode like 7, 8, 9, something like that. But I think that, yeah, I mean, if you think about what were we doing, we were in the garden, we were eating from the tree of life. So the tree of life gave us our physical immortality to be able to live, right? It was the tree of life. That's why when Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden, he put the angel with the flaming sword to keep them from the tree of life, so they wouldn't live forever. Okay?
In the state of sin.
Exactly. So we know that the health benefits from that tree helped our bodies to stay alive. So you think about what we ate then, all the fruits and vegetables, things that we ate from the land.
Yeah.
That's what we ate
Yes.
from. And think about the things that kills us, the stuff we make up, the high fructose corn syrups.
Yeah.
The things that we make up are the stuff that, exactly, it's the stuff that's killing us. But when we eat from the land as God made it, that stuff keeps us healthy.
Yeah.
So I think that, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I grow a lot of my own stuff, tomatoes and bell peppers and kale and cucumbers. Like I try and grow, and I try to eat organic, and I just try and stay away from a lot of the toxins because I just don't think it's good for us. So yeah, I do think that there's more. Look, the Chinese medicines, they know what they're doing. I mean, they've had
The essential oils?
it could be essential oils, but even some of the Chinese medicines, the different things they know from the teas, like different teas have different benefits for you, different herbs.
Yeah, I agree.
Like they know, because they've been doing this for so long. Hey, you got this ailment, take this. You have this ailment, take this. They're taking from the land. They know what things in the land can help our bodies. And I think in modern world, we're like, no, I'm going to create the thing that helps your body, right?
Yeah.
We're always replacing what God did with us. And so you look at all these drugs they give you on the commercials. You know, this will help this, but it can cause sudden heart explosion
I
and
know.
dementia and blah, 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 blah. It's all these side effects. Whereas green tea's got a chemical in it called ECGC, which actually helps with a lot of things in your body, right? I drink green tea every day. So it's like there's things that that God has made, I think, that are still remnants of the garden. Maybe I have no basis for this. It's just my mind, my opinion, thought. But I wonder if there's still just traces from the garden, right? Like we have some, like Adam and Eve were in love in the garden. We have love now. Like there's still traces where these things are still out there. We just don't know them anymore.
You'll love my roommate. Micah is so like that. He's like, I'm not putting no filth in my body. I'm not eating no fast food. And he gets to the point where, like, we all have organic honey in the house.
Oh yeah,
And so
raw.
we just,
I love
like,
it. Raw honey.
and we just,
Raw
like,
honey.
we
I'm on
do-
my
we
third
just
cup
drink
of tea today.
We just drink tea, water. He's like, I don't put none of that gross stuff in my
Nope.
body. And he's like, I don't grease nothing. I air fry it. I cook it. I'm like, he stays on top of it.
Yep.
And that is where it's like, that is looked down upon sometimes almost more than normally just eating and buying
Oh,
whatever
interesting. Okay.
and processed and eating with people and the culture and all of that. And I just have no grid how to like fight against that culture in a loving way. Because obviously I just don't want to be seen as arrogant. I
Right.
don't want it to, but if there are things that I feel like if we're missing as a culture and like someone sees it, it's important to like lead in that direction or call that out. But I'm like, gosh, I feel like
Well, I would say this. I don't know. There's certain things that we do want to call out, but there's certain things that maybe like this may not be the battle to fight.
Yeah.
And maybe just letting your life, like what you do, people will see it. Like I don't really try and change a lot of people's minds on this stuff
Yeah.
because I'm just like, oh yeah, I just don't eat that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't eat that, but you know, whatever. Like, but I'm not really trying to
Yeah.
because it can be really. It's a
Yeah.
complete overhaul for some people who are so used to processed food and packaging.
Yeah.
And I'm making everything from scratch because I don't want that down on my salad dressings.
Yeah.
Because I don't want all that crud.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run that for our next thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Which one? This is the
Hey, plug up the title.
That's the premarital one.
Yeah.
And then this is the one where the girls are getting their periods before, or if there's no biological father in the home.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are these, can I find them online or
Yeah,
can
yeah,
I just
that-
take scans of these?
Yeah,
papers?
you can take a picture of them. That's what
Okay.
I just print them from online. So
Oh.
here's,
Okay.
yep, so whatever you need. Here's the titles, you can find them online.
Thank you.
Married to the bride of Christ. Come on, somebody. I really want to just put this in my phone. You guys want to try to put this in my phone?
Sound. Let's go, guys. Let's find our seats. Let's go. What a great morning, right? Very great. Thank you so much, snack team, for filling us with dairy. Even though I'm dairy intolerant, but that's my third cup because I'm a warrior, you know. Yeah, that's why I keep eating dairy. I shouldn't. Okay, guys, let's sit down. I'm gonna keep eating. Okay, guys, before we go back to a second half, okay, quick announcement. Today, to this evening from 6:30 until 8, I posted the time on the WhatsApp group. We're going to have a security training happening in our classroom. Okay? Thank you, 5 to 6:30. So it won't be available for us to do homework here, but before or after, yes. Okay? Okay, before we jump to the next topic with Alycia, I really want to hear from you guys some things from the first half of class. Come on, Marina.
I really liked how she said, like, when it comes to looking at like the value of us as like humans, as like being created in the image of God, that it's like a painting. So like the painting's valuable because of the name on it of the one who created it. I've just never heard that. I was like, whoa, that's good.
I'm definitely gonna use that and say that. Well, that was my idea. I'm definitely gonna use that. Yeah, like, oh yeah, please, you know the painting. Then yeah, I'm gonna use that. But I'm gonna name you like that's from Alycia. I'm gonna tag you. One more person. We are just like saying some things that got highlighted to us from the first half of class.
Yeah, I think it was really cool because during our track with family restoration yesterday, we broke down the fatherless homes and how that impacts children. But we did not talk about how it literally, it changes the biological, like how girls get their periods and things like that. And so I just thought that was so crazy that like our bodies like literally change based off of whether there's a father in the home or not.
Yeah, and I love that that was not a single Bible verse in your explanation. Big, yeah, because like some people we're gonna say like, oh, the Bible says this. They're like, I don't believe the Bible. So your whole argument is down and just there first. So that's really good.
Okay. I am going to tell my brother, he's 21, just moved to San Diego. Him and his girlfriend have been dating for like 4 years. She grew up in a Muslim family, things like that. But you saying the statistic of they've been thinking like, oh, maybe we should move in together. And I'm like, no, because after hearing that, I'm like, right. And she's coming to Christianity and things like that. Praise the Lord. But I'm like, okay, I want to send her this thing and being like, hey, like you guys actually need to. No, but I will, absolutely. Yeah. And send it to my family group chat and be like, guys, this is serious. I should think it's so crazy because there's so many Christians, either lukewarm Christians, that are like, oh, it's fine. Like, even, you know, when I think about my brother, like, oh, it's fine that we have sex. It's fine that we, you know, they basically play house. They play house. And I'm like, no, it's not. So I just think that was like so good. Second.
And connecting with last Friday that we had a guy who was called to Entertainment Sphere last week, and he spoke about how the movies and TV shows influence that. Oh, yeah. The first thing that came to my mind was Friends.
Oh, interesting.
because they do that all the time. Like, oh, let's move in, and like him, Chandler and Monica, like, you know, and how it's a beautiful family, and they get married at some point, they have kids, and like they are successful type of people who moved in together, and now it's a happy family. And it's a fun show, fun to watch. It's a comedy, so it's easy, really easy to sneak into our like brain. So yes, last one before we jump back.
I think this whole week has been just so inspiring and so like eye-opening, but specifically today of just like how much this breaks the Father's heart and how far we've gone from a functioning society. And like obviously the hookup culture is so bad. I'm like, oh yeah, that's horrible, but it doesn't really affect me as much, and so much selfishness in that area. But it really is so sad, and it breaks God's heart, and he's like, this is never what I intended you to do, and I want to restore that. But we've like just said, oh, we don't care, we don't really want to know him. But now our eyes are being opened to how far we've gone, and that we do get to like make our way back to him, and he's like just there with open arms, like, I'm waiting for you. And so that was really inspiring, but also sad.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Belle. Let's jump back.
Yeah, sure. And I think, guys, it's important to note that God's rules we oftentimes think of as restrictive because they are, but think about them as they also are there to protect you from what is to come that you just don't know. Like, you guys didn't know about the studies that talk about if you live together before you're married, you're more likely to get divorced after year one. You didn't know that girls go through puberty at younger age as their biological father. There's things that you don't know. So rather than waiting for you to learn all those things and then tell you what to do, he's like, let me tell you this, but it's actually a protection rather than just an oppressive type thing. So with that said, and just, I'm keeping the articles up here because I know a lot of you are taking pictures of them. You good with this one? Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of you have been taking pictures to see, that if you want to look them up and read them. So they're right there if you want to take a picture and look at it. And where is this? Just trying to find there it is. One thing I will tell you is speaking on gender is easy for me. Actually, that's easy. That's an easy topic for me. Speaking on this one is much harder. Because the reality is it's more likely that somebody in this room failed in this area than they did in the gender area. And oftentimes you can hear stuff like this and you can have a sense of feeling like, man, I really messed up. I really screwed up. I'm filth. I can never be redeemed. Nobody's going to want me. I've failed God, whatever it might be. And I want you to know that if this is an area that you haven't done well, and it could even be pornography, okay? It may not even be full sexual action. It could be even just pornography. There's an area that you feel like, man, this is an area I've not done well. I want you to know that you are not beyond forgiveness and grace and restoration, that this is not the end of the story, that our lives are full of moments of shame and regret. I have them too. And I'm never talking at people. You should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. Maybe sometimes if I'm talking to a Muslim or something like that. But in audiences like this, I'm talking about us. Here's what the Lord is showing us about what his way is. And I don't expect everybody to get it perfect and right all the time. But just know that the story doesn't end because of what you may feel like the worst thing you ever did was. That is not the end of the story. And part of understanding that, I think, is going to be looking through this article. Redeemed whores, prideful virgins, and what to do with the doctrine of expiation. I just ran across this article last year, but I didn't actually read it until last week. And I'm like, this is going to be good for us to talk about. The reason why it's good for us to talk about is because I think it says, how many, was it 1 out of 3 women end up on OnlyFans? Was that, yeah, 1 in 3. Okay. OnlyFans.
All women.
OnlyFans. So OnlyFans are projected to claim 1 in 3 women by the end of the decade. So if you are not familiar with OnlyFans it's basically a volunteer porn site where women can go on there and maybe it's men too. I don't know. But I just know about it being about women, and they can put their images, and then anybody around the world can just log in and they can watch their pictures and their stuff. So women are voluntarily doing this, and they make money off of it. The one girl, is it Lily? Her name in the UK. I watched one. Huh?
Men can be on OnlyFans.
They can? Okay. So men can be on OnlyFans. So it's by the way, just so you know, we are seeing rises in the number of women that are engaging with pornography. But you think about pornography as a man thing. Women are engaged with, and I'm meeting younger ages with some of the young girls that are engaging in this, guys. But OnlyFans is, so they put their information out there. Yeah, pictures all the time. People can like and do whatever, and they can make money. This one young lady, Lily, in the UK, she calls herself a slut. She goes, I'm the definition of a slut. That's what I am. Like, I sleep with multiple men. She was going to pick a day where she was going to sleep with 100 men in a day. So she put it out on her OnlyFans page. People came from around the world to sleep with her. And she did it. 100 men in a day. And then she said she wanted to break the record, and her next thing was going to try 900 and something. I don't even know. When you're at that point, you get like 20 seconds per man. How do you go through that many people in a day? It's just ridiculous. Anyways, the point is, this is very much a part of where our culture is with the sexual freedom. We've come in on the gender. We have not come in on this. And the sentence that I like, one of the sentences I really like from this article is, the cultural rot is too deep. And so this article is something that I think is worth us just talking about and discussing, because I think we are going to see a lot of people that we know who this is going to be part of their history and their past and their story. So what I want to do is, first of all, just hear from you all. Were there any sentences or things that were said that were new to you? So for example, for me, it was the OnlyFans are projected to claim 1 in 3 women by the end of the decade. I had no idea it was that high. So that was shocking to me. But anybody else have anything that when they read it that they thought was shocking to them? Oh, let me also just say this. The reason why this came, any of you know what Protestia is? Protestia, I don't know how they pronounce it. It's a Twitter page, and they like to poke the bear a lot, okay? They like to poke the bear a lot. And so they had posted this tweet that you see here: better to marry a former OnlyFans model who's come to know the depths of her sin and the mercy of the Lord than an unkissed virgin with a haughty look and a proud heart. So they were saying it's better to marry a former OnlyFans model who comes with this huge past but has run to Jesus and has been saved and transformed, than a woman who is a virgin but is haughty and proud and cocky and this kind of thing, is what they're getting at. So obviously a lot of people had things to say about it. And so then they wrote a whole article based on their thing, and that's what this is. So anything stand out to anybody? Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that in the beginning of the article, when he was talking about the guys, how he was not, it felt very one-sided, where he was like, men are no longer engaging in pornography or sexual, outside
They just gave up.
Yeah, it was just like, but I wouldn't agree that that's true.
Okay. Okay.
Especially with what we talked about today with like the whole 10-year thing.
Okay.
Kind of beside that, I was surprised how harshly he expected men to treat women who had come out of that.
Okay. So for you, it's like you think men would be forgiving of a woman with a past like that.
More so than the tone of the article.
Okay. Great. Yes.
I would come at it from the same vein, because I immediately, even just from seeing that tweet at the beginning, started thinking of Habakkuk.
Uh-huh.
How his marriage to the whore was like a representation of Israel whoring himself to other gods.
Great.
Religion and stuff.
Great.
So that actually, I think there's a movie and a book that's semi-loosely based off of Habakkuk.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called, but basically like this. Redeeming Love. Redeeming Love, yeah. I watched that with a few friends whenever it came out several years ago.
Great.
And that just like totally shifted my perspective alongside because we did Habakkuk alongside that to kind of like inner contrast and stuff. I thought it was really cool because that actually it did soften my heart. So like, where I was like sitting there just as a virgin, I was like, yo, she needs to be a virgin too, or else it's not gonna happen. And I was like, yo, she's been redeemed. It doesn't happen. You know, she's a new creature. And so I just like that was when I immediately like compared the contrast.
Wow, I love it.
Being hard.
I love it.
I was like, I feel like for me it wouldn't be that difficult.
I love it.
If that had been passed for another, just like a radical juice, if you hit it, I'm like, oh, that's awful. I'm sorry you went through that, but crazy how you were
So cool. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I've actually had multiple conversations with different men.
Okay.
on this topic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, in like group settings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like with friends and stuff, and even family. And there's a girl, what's her name? Nyla or something. She was like major OnlyFans star, like super famous, and she got saved. And she has been criticized relentlessly by like right-wing Christians.
Okay.
For like her past, and like people even claim like you're not saved, you're not like real, like all this stuff, and it's really intense. And I've had conversations with people being like, yeah, I would never date someone that was like in the porn industry and like anything because those videos are out there. That's gross and dirty. I don't want other men looking at that. So why would I have a woman that's feminine?
Okay.
And like I've had personal
Okay.
conversations. So
And those are believers that, okay, yeah.
like people in my way. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it is like the harshness of his tone is true to some extent.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's really sad, but
So you have encountered the very people he's talking about.
oh yeah.
Interesting. I like it. Yeah.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
Like I've had so many conversations with like pastors and people, and especially pastors. I've had pastors tell me, well, you know, even about trafficking victims, like, well, those women wanted it, or they want to be there, and multiple pastors, not just one, and having to teach and like show a different perspective was very, very hard. And I do believe that there are incredible godly men in the church that don't think that way, but I have seen quite a few. And I think, to be honest, I mean, I don't know if I should bring this up. I mean, the scandals that church leaders are engaging today and now, is coming out right after left. We're seeing this is what they have adhered to, so then I wonder how does it trickle down into the congregation and the ministry? Because we're talking thousands of victims across the country who all things different, and that's just in the past few decades.
Are you specifically saying like this they believe that the women had a choice?
A lot of, yeah, probably just within this island alone, 5 different pastors, either traveling ministers or local pastors that I've spoken to, with the way that they speak of women in exploitation, that have been exploited or are promiscuous, are pretty demeaning. I know it's not everybody, but
Sure. You're hearing experience. Yeah, we're getting that. We'll hear and then we'll go here.
I actually had, I think there are a couple things that were said
'Kay.
that like, for me at least are pretty significant. One of them was like, I don't believe in like demeaning in any way. Obviously, completely not Christ-like. But the thing is, there's so many things where I feel like literally we have to admit. Like I'll say this, even if like in 9 times out of 10, already way better than I am, but I get it right, then there's one specific skill I don't have that you need, you want. If you don't want to sign up for it, like, you don't have to. And I feel like there's no more shame in that. Like you're no more or less spiritual, you're no more or less Christian, you're no more or less save yourself. If you just don't want to sign up for that. And the truth is, like, I feel like I would never shame anybody and I would never go for that. And I feel like when people have that tone, it makes like the church complicit in like producing even more trauma, and that's like legitimate church hurt. But I just don't understand. Like, I guess my question is, what do you say? Because I tend to be more graceful and very consciously sign up for people who are problematic in relationships.
Yeah.
Problematic. But even though I know I'm like, this person deals with this, and I'm gonna love them anyway, and they're my brother, and I'm gonna love them daily, but we're gonna always be at the same table. But like, what do you say to people who are like, I don't want to we've been through this, or we've done this,
Sure.
or I'm not comfortable with this, because even if that's not the way I think, I don't think that's wrong at all.
Mhm.
I feel like we can never influence someone's free will. I do what I feel.
Yeah. Well, my hope for giving you guys this article to kind of look through and process is just for honesty from you all, right? I don't need you. I'm not looking for you all to say what the right Christian answer is. I actually appreciate the honesty. If I'm understanding you correctly, what I'm hearing is anytime you meet somebody that there's potential for a relationship, there's certain things that they have that may, yeah, I can deal with that, but maybe there's something that's like, I just can't deal with that. And that also should be honored and respected. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not looking for right or wrong answers. I'm looking for us to process this out together as brothers and sisters in Christ, and to people to be honest with where they're at, because this is something that I think is part of the future of what Christian men, probably not maybe some of the men here, but probably the next several years, as some of these women come out of a lot of this stuff, that they will be dealing with. And it's something for us. And so I appreciate that you don't maybe have an answer that's what other people said. That's what I want. I don't need you to say something that sounds good. Just, it's okay to say where you're at. I can share where I'm at, but I'll let you guys keep going first. I want you to keep hearing from yourselves. Oh, I'm going to go to right here, and then we'll go to you.
You can go her first.
Sure? Okay.
It reminds me of yesterday when you were talking about Jesus writing in the sand for the woman, and like whoever is not.
Oh, the woman caught the act of adultery.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of that. And so these guys are just like, yeah, like they're not even sharing really their experience with it, but more like they're focusing on the woman of like what she did wrong.
Okay.
How she did like this horrible act. And it's like, okay, well, throw the first stone then. Like, you know, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So it's reminding you of the woman caught in the act of adultery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Look what she's done. Have you read it? Oh, you read it now?
I saw something that's like threw me out because like they see it not as a redeemed washed soul as Christ. To me, that's like how do you say you love Jesus but you don't love the person right next to you? Like I think we all have a past. I have a past, right? Like I have a past too. And I feel you not to mention that. But at the same time, like, am I not pure because I made mistakes? Like, and I feel like when it comes down to like this, like. To say those things that makes you question your heart, that makes you question their relationship with God. Because if that was their mother did that, you will want that same grace for your mother. But why can you not have the same grace for your sister? You know what I mean? I feel like, are they less redeemed? Are they not washed? They are washed. There are pure in God's eyes. God still loves me. He's willing to die for them. I just feel like sometimes people lack their empathy simply of grace because they're like, oh, well, grace is sufficient in my circumstances. But in your circumstances, I can only give you a tad bit grace. Because you know what, that's why I would do the best thing with Jesus. I feel like some people don't understand the true sympathy of what grace looks like. Because grace is sufficient in every area of our life. And when grace is given to us for every part, every 30 seconds of our life, we need it. So when I just saw that, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of got tight. I ain't gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hoping that's just feel back there. But it's okay. Because it's like, it's sad because you have a lot of people like this. I remember one time, I said this. Cardi B right now would say, I'm a Christian. I guarantee you, almost everybody and their mother will take Cardi B, will walk in like this, walk into the kingdom. But the girl down there, Laverne, was a prostitute. They were like this, nah. So then I question people's hearts, and they're like, where do you see grace?
Same. That's an interesting comparison. Cardi and the person on the street. Did I see a hand over here? Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't expect to see like that guys or like I guess like leading the church and stuff, and have more of a like moral standard than females. From what I've witnessed, I feel like women are usually the ones that are trying to get like their boyfriends to go to church or something like that. So that was just like a statistic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the change that we're seeing right now, which is wild Too bad it didn't happen 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying, Bethany? All these men were flocking to the church. Right? But now, because our era right now, it's the women outnumber the men. And now it's happening. The men are starting to rise up, you know? So it's like, yes, it's an interesting shift that we're seeing. Yeah.
I would also say that from my personal experience, I haven't experienced men being the critical ones when it comes to women that have been passed, but more so the older generation of women looking down on the younger generation of women. And I think it's like, I wish he kind of talked more about like the other side of it too, where like I was just talking to Preston on break, and like we're always so quick to like always point out men in the church like you're the one struggling with pornography, when it's like equally a battle between men, like both men and women struggle with things like that.
Sure.
So it's like we're so quick to point out like very specific groups for specific things, but not actually get down to the roots and like help people and like help people give grace. It's always like, oh, the men are always struggling with pornography and like come up to the altar, but I'm like, what about the women? And I think there's like this thing of like, well, just because you're not on a porn site, like 50 Shades of Grey is porn. Like,
Oh, yeah,
like,
I've heard.
You know, so it's like, I just feel like there's a huge lack in the church of like meeting both sides and looking at the full picture, and always so quick to just point out one group of people. I think that was my frustration with this article.
So I think too, so a couple things. Thank you all for sharing. I will agree. I think the culture out is very deep, but I think it's been deep for a while. So part of the reason why, when I was reading this article, one of the things that kept, a couple of things that I'll tell you that stood out to me. This whole thing about how men, 1 in 3 reports, young men are checking out of relationships altogether. 1 in 3 men report being a virgin into their 20s, not because of religious conviction, but because of despair. They've stopped trying. They've lost hope. Men have embraced the label incel as a badge of bitter identity, retreating into echo chambers of self-loathing and women hating. That's where you get the new Nick Fuentes and all those guys that are pushing back and are frustrated. Marriage rates are plummeting, birth rates are falling, and many Christian young men are discovering the pool of chaste, godly women is not just shallow, it's nearly dry. This whole idea of the culture of honesty. So let me tell you, what's interesting about this article is I read this, and I understand he's talking about men forgiving these OnlyFans girls. But I will tell you, as a female, this has been my dating experience as well. So they may not be porn stars, but they certainly come with past. Okay, so I'm 45. I've never dated a man who was a virgin, even in his 20s. And they were Christian men. So it's like when I read this, I'm like, this isn't new to me. It's like, this is the way the men have been for the women. That's why you see so many women who are Christian and are single, because they're trying to find godly men, but the men aren't acting that way, or they've got this baggage, or they've got this past, and you're like, oh boy, goodness. So now this one's talking about how it's going to happen in the reverse now. But this is a story I think a lot of single women would say that's been their reality. And so I think that's one of the things that's been interesting to me. And that's why the culture, so the options are much less because of the way that the culture, that's why I was saying earlier, the culture has infiltrated the church in terms of the church is not excused or distant from falling in the same way the culture is. I will tell you, I did an event recently, 24. Dog, that's recently. 24. Fall of 24. That wasn't really all that recent, but fall of 24 with a gentleman, phenomenal guy, pastor. The topic was pornography. I was just the MC, so they brought in these different people. This guy, I shouldn't say he's a pastor. He's in seminary now. I don't think he's a pastor, but in seminary now. Anyway, he's a former porn star. 10 some years, videos, all the things. Met a Christian woman and became a Christian through just his interaction with her. They are now married. And so she has married this guy who's a porn star. This dude, man, listening, and this isn't like it's that long ago. Like, he's not that old. He's like in his probably early 40s or mid 40s. And so he was a porn star through his 20s and into his 30s. So this is not like, oh, this is 40 years from now and he's 70 years old. So, but this man is out there preaching powerful stuff and teaching the word really, really well. And his past is his past. But she was able to forgive him, and they have a marriage with kids and all of that, and he is so thankful for that. So, I mean, I've seen that. I've also seen, going back to what you're saying with the trafficking, I had one kid, this ripped my heart out. I'd never had anybody ask me this before. And I was unprepared, and I was like, I had to check with somebody later, like, oh man, did I do okay? This kid comes to me. He's an MK, grew up in Africa, American, grew up in Africa. While he was there, one of the women that was, I don't know, I don't know if the organization, just in the community, I don't know, but she sexually assaulted him and abused him and raped him multiple times. So I'm meeting him at about 18 years old, and he's maybe even 16 years old. And this kid has tears in his eyes, and he's begging me, and he's like, am I still considered a virgin? Would a woman want me still? Because I'm not clean. Like, I can't tell her that I'm a virgin. Like, does God see me? Like, am I clean? He was just, and you could see him like this, like he was just so wrestling because this was so beyond his control because he was a kid when this happened. And he just felt like, I'm impure and no woman's going to want me now because she's going to want a virgin and I can't give that to her. Guys, this is the reality of the world that we live in. And I appreciate what you said, because there are going to be some people who are going to say, I could handle if you had a passive alcohol. I could handle if you had a passive being hooked on drugs. But I don't know if I can handle this. I would say that's an okay position to have. With the caveat that you put in, you are fully recognizing that they are fully redeemed and saved and transformed by Jesus Christ. You're not looking at them as shame. You're not looking at them as evil, as nasty. You recognize, just so if I came from an alcoholic background, where I had a father who was alcoholic and it was abusive in the home, and I meet somebody who likes to drink, that might be hard for me. They may only drink 7-8 times a year. It still might be hard for me because of my background, whereas it may not affect her at all. So there is that balance that I do think you're onto something, and I do want to validate that there's something there with that. But I still making sure, because what he's ultimately getting at is how you view the sinner that has been redeemed. Do you see them as a full believer who's been redeemed, who's been transformed, who is not filthy, who's not, doesn't have to live in shame? That's going to be the key thing. And so I just want you to know, this may not be your situation, but you may meet somebody with baggage. And you're going to have to figure out what that might look like. Any other thoughts on that article? Yeah. I think why people act that way towards them, I think it's what is it Jesus say? He who's been forgiven much loves much, or whatever that is. I will tell you that those who have fallen on their face are the first to give grace to somebody else because they know what it's like to be in that hole. The people that I find, even in my experience, who are the first to criticize, to mock, to make their posts criticizing other people, are the people who haven't fallen yet. But when you fall and you've been in need of grace, you dish it out. So I think for a lot of people, they just think that would never be me. And let me tell you guys, as long as you're on this side of heaven, okay, you need to wake up daily and say, I will make Jesus Christ Lord of my life today, because it could be you. And you need to daily choose him as Lord and not yourself, because it could be you. And so I think the people who have fallen are the first to say, it's okay, let me call down in that hole. We're going to figure out how to get out together. I know what it's like. And I'm okay to get dirty in my association with you. See, it's those who've never fallen down. They're like, don't come near me. You're going to defile my ministry. You're going to mess, people are going to talk bad about me because I associate with you. The people who've been down there are willing to get dirty. Yeah, people may not like that I'm talking to you, but we got to get out of here together. So I think it has a lot to do with, if you haven't fallen in certain areas, you're not willing to extend that grace. Yeah.
I also think too that it is so important to teach the younger generation these things, because as me and Alycia were talking on break, it's like, if I just think about my own personal testimony and how would it have been different if my mother and my father sat me down in middle school and said listen, this is the world we live in. These are things we've experienced. These are the roots. These are the things that you will experience if you don't. I just think it's just a lack of knowledge. And that's what breaks my heart the most, because we're seeing so many middle schoolers and so many people get so lost in their identity because they just don't know. And I just think that we need to be, like, especially all of us in this room, we need to be so aware and just vulnerable with, like, our future husband, with our future children, because if they don't know, then we're literally just doing them a disadvantage. And so that's what I think is just, like, breaking my heart the most, is, like, where you go into a middle school right now, people are wearing their body count like it's a badge.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
It's like we need to be more vocal about these certain
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
more than, I don't even know the statistic, but like every woman I meet that is now either gay or walked away from the church has been sexually abused as a child.
Yeah.
In some way.
So they don't want to be with a man because men are abusers, and you can't protect yourself, so you go with the women because it's safe.
Yeah. So it's just
You
like
can defend
we
yourself
need to
against the women.
Raise the emotional health
Yep.
in the church. I think that would be, we would see a cultural shift.
Thanks for sharing, friend. All right, we got to get to some of your questions. Did you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just was wondering, like, I don't know, I feel like maybe a lot of women here can agree. I just have a lot of friends who I hear their testimonies and family members.
Yeah.
Who I hear their testimonies, and it ends kind of in a more, like, a lot of them end in a sad light, if that makes sense. Like, they're like, and I have to live with that. Like it's like the word, I hear that a lot, like, and I have to live with that. I have to tell my husband one day that I did this, and that, you know, and I have to live with that forever. And it's like almost no response breaks through that. Like nothing, like I could pray for them. I could be like, no, that's not true. You're washed by the blood. You're made new. And it's like, I've seen like time and time again, like friend after friend after friend. It's like almost ingrained in them. They're like, even if I'm forgiven for this, I still did this. And so the fact that I have to tell someone that I did this one day means that this is still mine forever. You know? So it's like, what would the response, like what, I mean, obviously like going back to scripture, but it's like.
Well, I mean, I think it's easy when we can. It's easier for us to let Jesus forgive us than for us to forgive ourselves. Okay, and for some people, first of all, I don't think she would have to share her story all the time. She can share with her husband, and that's it. She doesn't need to be sharing her story all the time. But I do think some people do get caught in that circle, and they cannot forgive themselves, and they still define themselves by the worst thing that they've ever done. And so I've got a friend in that situation right now. He was a believer. I don't know how it all happened, but ended up in Asia and a lot of those brothels. And just figured he was so lost and so condemned by God that he had the word damned tattooed on his back. Because that's how bad I am. Came out of it, got help, found the Lord today. This is like 10 years ago. But I'm sitting here talking to him, and he's basically like, he's so scared to talk to his friends, including me. Like, we ran into each other. We hadn't seen each other in like 9 years. Ran into each other, and he was so scared that I was going to hate him, criticize him, because I didn't see him since it all happened. I'm like, no. He's scared to all the other friends that we had at that time that he hasn't seen because he fled just to avoid everybody. He's scared to meet them all. No, tell me, they'll love you, they'll love you. He's like, yeah, but once they find out what I've done, they won't. And all I can say is when I've been in that position, shocked at what I've been capable of doing, the thing that helped me was when I confessed it to somebody else. And when I confessed it and got it out, instead of just leaving it in me, it was like I was finally free. I just put it out there. And so it sounds like for this young lady, she feels like confessing it to her husband isn't enough and that she needs to say more. I don't think that's true. I almost wonder if she's made it bigger than what it needs to be in her mind. And it's probably because of her level of shame for herself. You know, you have this expectation and then it just, for yourself, and it just collapses and you don't know how to deal with that. And maybe an awareness of maybe the depravity of us as people without God, and just understanding how big of a chasm that is, not just for her, but for all of us. She just thinks that she's in a different spot. I would pull her back into the pool that we are all sinners in the hole. You are no different. You keep trying to make yourself different. You're not different. You were in the same pot as me, and we've both received grace and forgiveness. And maybe it's just she just keeps putting herself, yeah, but I'm so much worse. Like my friend is, but I'm so much worse. I've done this. I've done that. It's like, no, actually, the cross still covers you. And so maybe she just needs to confess it, get it out, and she's got to let it go. Otherwise, she's not receiving God's forgiveness and grace. And maybe as I continue to talk to this friend, if you ask me that question, yeah, I might have another answer for you. But this is something I'm starting to have to deal with this friend, and to see his fear that when I tell people what I've done 9 years ago, they won't even want to be my friend. All right, you asked this question. Going to hell. We're going to do 4 answers due to time. This question yesterday, you're telling me because I don't believe in this Jesus, and if I get your question wrong, just correct me because I'm just going off my notes here. You're telling me if I don't accept this Jesus, that I'm going to go to hell. That's cruel. That's wrong. I'm such a nice person. What are you going to say? Turn and burn. Definitely don't say that. Yes. Okay. All right. Yep. Yep. Okay. One more? Anybody? Oh, yep. Here's another one. What is hell? But what is heaven? Right? Ask them, well, tell me what you think heaven is. What do you think hell is? Yeah, great. So some things I would add is I actually approach this by talking about, well, what is heaven? And heaven is unity and being in perfect relationship with God for all of eternity. So you don't want that. So what should then happen? Should God force you in there anyways? Or should he give you what you want? What you want is to not be in a relationship with him, and that's ultimately what hell is. You live in a broken relationship with God. So which is it that you want? Because if you don't want God now, then him forcing you to be in his presence for all of eternity, wouldn't that be hell for you? So one of the ways I want to approach it is, well, what is heaven? Do you even want to be there? To make them kind of think about, maybe this is what you've chosen, actually. The Bible says that God wishes that none would perish. So this is something that you have chosen. So that might be an angle, right? This whole, you don't have to go there. You chose that. Stephen Fry, the British actor, was asked, he's an atheist gay man, asked, what if you die and there's actually heaven and you go there and you stand before the pearly gates? What are you going to say so that you can get in? And he goes, I don't want to get in. I don't want to go there. You tell me that I'm going to have to believe in a God who allows, these bugs to burr into little kids' eyes and cause all this blindness. I was like, I'm not going there. I don't want to go. Guys, it might be shocking to you, but the people do not want to go. They do not want God. Newsflash. They do not want him. And that was you can watch his little clip on that, probably on YouTube. So, yes, that is definitely an angle that I would go, is pointing out, well, what is heaven? And, maybe hell is something that you actually would prefer. Which sounds crazy, but you don't have to go there. So let me tell you about what could happen next. Yeah.
Just kind of thinking from their perspective a little bit more.
Tell me.
It maybe this question stems from like, yeah, maybe I don't want to be with God for forever and eternity because we don't have that relationship with Him.
Yeah.
But me choosing to be apart from God shouldn't mean what their view of hell is of torture and, they would just want to cease to exist. And they're like, why, maybe their viewpoint is like, why does that, like me not choosing God, then force me into eternal torture?
Right.
Even if I'm like a good person.
So this is actually getting back maybe a little bit to this idea of, it's like saying, well, why aren't there ladders to slide down in the game of Monopoly? It's like, here's the game. You may want there to be ladders in Monopoly, but Monopoly is going to be played a certain way. And so I get that we may think that the alternative isn't great, but those are the options that we're faced with God or without, basically. So do you think you would have to be tormented? There's a lot of conversation about what exactly hell is, right? You've probably heard them. We talked, I think, about it a little briefly earlier this week. Here's what we know. It exists, it's bad, and you don't have to go. Is it eternal? Is it temporal, where you will just get annihilated like you mentioned? Some Christians are going to say yes, some Christians are going to say no. But even if it is temporal and you are annihilated, you are still missing out. You are still experiencing the worst thing that can happen to you, which is that you do not get to be with the greatest possible being for all of eternity. So I hear that, and I would say, but the reality is you don't get to pick the rules. And this is getting back a little bit to what he was saying over there. Like, this is the system that it's in. And I get that we may not like it, but we are all in a system of some sort, whether it's in the system of the country and following the rules of this country as well. So I hear you, my friend, that is a good challenge back. All right, what about this one? I asked God to show himself, but he didn't. This used to be one of my people always say, what question would you like to get asked? This used to be it. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh. I like it. Okay. I hate this poll. I'm sorry, friend. I'm trying to keep you in and out. This poll is just always blocking. Sorry, how does it tie this in? Oh, wanting more. Christ crucified. Yeah.
It's not like two ways of answering, but I think one way would be saying that, well, what if he has Jesus coming in scripture, but you haven't looked at the evidence? But the other one is there was a friend of mine, another friend, but I get asked this question sometimes. He said why wouldn't God just write it on the wall so that I could not look? And I think that
I love it.
God is giving us this beautiful thing that we can trust and we really our trust.
Okay. 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 Yeah, well, they don't actually want to believe. Okay, so this one in a different direction than I thought it would. So let's pull it back, and then we'll answer multiple the directions that it went in. When people say this, what do you think they're feeling? Good. Anger. Hurt. Disappointment. Guys, this isn't a question of pain. Typically, this isn't a question of why doesn't God reveal himself more. This is a question as I asked him to show me that he's there and he hasn't. Why won't he show himself to me? Does he not love me? Does he not care about me? Am I not important? Or maybe he's just not there. That's what. So oftentimes, this is a question I would ask for further information. Well, tell me more about that, because you want to know if there's pain there. And I've had people ask me this with tears in their eyes. Yes, exactly. And this is typically like, God won't do this for me. He won't help me. So there's that betrayal, rejection, hurt, all of that pain is wrapped up in that. Okay, so we went from there. Okay, so first of all, I used to hate this question because I didn't know, what could I say? How can I speak for God on this? Why God didn't reveal himself to you specifically? I don't have an answer for that. And then I met a kid at a university. And he was an atheist when I met him. Next thing you know, I hear he's a Christian. I'm like, what? Or believes in God. I'm like, what? His words, not mine. One night sleeping, had some kind of encounter. I don't know if it was a dream, something woke him up, whatever. But he knew it was God that had just talked to him or reached him or whatever it was. So he's like, okay, I believe. He went first to the Catholic Church and then finally ended up in the Protestant churches. Was a Christian for about 6 months. Ran across some things in the Old Testament that he didn't like. Said, I don't believe anymore. Walked away. So he literally got the audience with God that people are asking for, and he still walked away. I was no longer scared of this question after that, because I realized that even when God does show himself, we still can say no. Now, that leads to some of this stuff that you're talking about. Romans 1:20. I love this. If God showed himself, would you believe? Write it on the wall. Like, make it more clear. And this one I get more so in the lane of why, if God is so hidden, like why not reveal himself? Why be so hidden? That's usually where I get that kind of lane of answers, is kind of more the hiddenness of God. Why doesn't he just show himself? So let me just answer quickly how I would respond to that. This one I actually would use the Bible for. I said, well, that's an interesting question, because, Christians believe that Jesus is God himself and he comes down to earth. And there's this interesting story of a guy named Lazarus who was dead. Lazarus was dead for 3 days and Jesus wasn't there before he died, so he died. Jesus comes back to raise him from the dead, and he actually raises Lazarus from the dead. Now, people knew he was dead, and then they see Jesus raise him from the dead. So they just see evidence that this guy just raised somebody from the dead. And we think, what a cool story. But if you keep reading, it says some of the people believed in Jesus. But then when you keep reading more, the Pharisees and chief priests began to plot how they might kill Jesus for raising Lazarus from the dead, and how they might kill Lazarus again. In other words, guys, even when God does show himself and when he does give evidence, they still don't want to believe. So this is getting back to what Esther was saying about free will, the human heart. This was one of the things that shocked me. I didn't expect this. I thought when I went into apologetics, people just don't believe because I just don't know the answers. I'm going to give them the answers. They're going to believe. And then I learned about the human heart. And the human heart doesn't want it to be true all the time. And that was one of the hardest things for me to realize, is that some people just don't want it to be true. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But that's some people. What about that one person who actually is looking for something, like that one who's genuinely like, I will believe if he just gives me anything, like any little bit of a sign, or just they're just looking for anything.
Yeah, and I think some people are genuine when they say that. But my pushback to them though is, but I am not 100% convinced that if God showed himself to you that you would believe. Because when he did show himself, other people walked away from him. And so that's why I'm like, you may think that this is what you need to believe, but it actually isn't. This is kind of getting back to what Jesus said with Thomas and the whole, look, you believe because you see me, but blessed are those who haven't seen me and believe. And people think, oh, that means that blessed are those who just believe without evidence. That's not what it means. The blessed are the people who actually don't have this evidence right in front, but are still able to believe in me because of all the other evidences that they have. And so the reality is God isn't always going to show himself in that way. But if he did, there is no guarantee that you wouldn't walk away. So I would tell him, don't hang all your hats on that one hook. Like, let's actually look, and there might be actually enough here that actually you could feel confident and convinced that this is true. So, But this is, remember, this is personal. Oftentimes there is a sense of they've prayed every night for 3 weeks and God failed them. There's pain and all that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm just not at the point, I've just seen enough people walk away from God clearly revealing himself. Here's another one. I talked to people about this woman I know, Delia Knox, who was healed, wheelchair, paralyzed, gets up. She's paralyzed for 20 some years. At a church service, they're praying for her. She gets up and walks. I've offered this to so many atheists. They say they want evidence for a miracle. I got it. I got one for you. Here's this YouTube video. Watch it. I've seen this woman with my own eyeballs. She used to come to my church in a wheelchair, and now she's walking. And I have this video. And every single time they've said to me, don't bother showing it to me because I'll just say her brain was able to spontaneously heal itself. So do you want evidence that there's a God or not? And so that's why I'm like, so what you're trying to discern, guys, is this a hardened heart that no matter what you get, this is the Alex O'Connors all day long. Well, Alex, what about this? You guys know what Alex O'Connor is? Some of you, he's a big atheist, very popular. So he'll say, well, what about this? You answer that. Okay, but what about this? And you answer, okay, but what about this? And you answer, like, he'll never stop. There's never enough. There's always more. There's always more. Because in his mind, as long as I have a rebuttal or have another question, then you haven't given me enough evidence. That's the way he sees things. As long as I can have a question, then you haven't given me enough evidence, and there can't be a God. So you're trying to discern where their heart is at. So that's why you want to ask those initial questions at the beginning. So I guess I'm a little less convinced. But there are people that are generally seeking, but they just need to know that even if God shows himself, you can still walk away. It's not 100%. The reformers would agree with me on that, but I hold that view. Okay, next one. Let's cover some of these sexuality ones because we just did them. So one of the questions was, I feel, I'm a lesbian or I'm gay or whatever. I feel this way. How I feel matters. It doesn't affect other people. Why is it wrong? I think we've kind of covered that one with our session today, right? Okay, if not, let me know. Pronouns, we talked about that yesterday. Can a trans person marry? We didn't talk about that yesterday. Boy. Ugh. So the question is, can someone, okay, so I know a woman who transitioned, and she transitioned back to being a woman. She was meant to male, back to woman. She's married. Can someone who is actively trans, would somebody who's actively trans, would that be should they get married? I would probably say no, they shouldn't get married. If you're talking about like a Christian, I don't know. I guess I had to think about that one because the question comes down to who are they marrying, right? Okay, so here's the deal. I guess maybe this is the way I'll think about it. I'll just process it out with you. Okay, I transitioned a guy, but I'm still biologically female. So I should still marry a guy. Okay? But if I marry a woman, then I'm in a gay relationship. So I would say, no, you shouldn't do that. But once again, if you're talking about people, these are going to be non-Christians. So it's kind of like they're kind of going to do what they want. It's kind of a different kind of ball game. So I would still say, I would advocate for heterosexual marriage. So maybe that's the only thought I have on that. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Because I don't know what the background is like on that particular question. Okay. Right. They snipped. You didn't see. He was like this fully. Oh, got it. Right. Right. Yeah. So like for this one woman I know, so she transitioned. She had a double mastectomy, so she had both breast removals. I didn't mention that yesterday. Top surgery, bottom surgery. Top surgery is double mastectomy, get both things removed, both breasts removed. Bottom surgery is genitalia surgery, which we did talk about. So she got double mastectomy, and then she detransitioned back to being a woman. She is married to a man, and he loves her without both breasts, loves her even with the stubble that she has as a remnant of the testosterone. He loves her and he cares for her. They don't have any children. I don't know if she can or if there was damage because of the testosterone. I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, so I definitely think once again, guys, remember the cultural rot is deep right now. So we looked at the article on the OnlyFans, but they could be someone who comes out of the gender community, out of the trans community, and their bodies are not what they originally were. What will that mean? Laura Smalls, I think her name is. You can look her up. But yeah, a man is willing to love her the way she is. So yeah, absolutely. I think that is possible. And I think that's the way we should go. I definitely think it's the way we should go. Thank you for that clarification on that.
I have a question that's somewhat similar.
Okay.
So when it comes to sharing the gospel, say there was like you met a lesbian and that person is currently married to a woman and that person decides to give their life to Jesus. How do you go about like if they ask like, okay, so what do I do now? Like do I get divorced? Like
Oh, right, with the lesbian thing. Yeah. So I wouldn't see a marriage between two women as a marriage anyways. So I would say they're not married. So I know someone, she is married to a woman. She's became Christian, is now married to a man. And one of the conversations we had was, well, is it okay for me to marry somebody? Because she was already married once. It's like, it wasn't even a marriage. So if somebody is a lesbian, becomes a Christian, I do think that relationship should end, but I will tell you, I won't put a time frame on it. I will allow the Holy Spirit to do his work in people. There's a wild story. This will mess with your head a little bit, but if I haven't done enough messing with your head. So couple, Lexi and something, I forget his name. She's a girl, he's a guy. They met, she was transitioned to a male, and he was a gay man. So he is dating a man. Okay, but she really is a female, but transitioned to man. So they're together. Believers. Singing worship, leading worship at church. Bible studies. She goes and gets a double mastectomy. Gets both breasts removed. She hadn't done that yet. Both breasts removed. So now she's even more like a man. Still believers. And then God says to her, it's time to give me your gender. Took several years before God asked her to surrender her gender to him, which she did. She is since living fully as a female. They've had, I think maybe on their third child now. It's a beautiful story. They are so passionate about the Lord. Guys, once again, like I said yesterday, it is not your job to be the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit will work in somebody on his own timing. But imagine if, as soon as they became Christians, God's like, okay, give me your gender. They are like, wait, I've just learned who you are, God, and you want me to do all this stuff. Like, that's a lot. What he did is he grew them deeper and deeper into their relation with him so they could trust him with anything. So when God asked her for her gender, she was like, yeah, I'll give it to you. Would not have been there maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, if he had done it right off the bat. So what I would say is, and this is the sanctification as a process thing. You let the Lord work. You let the Lord work. So I don't have any problem saying, look, now that you guys are Christians, here's what the Bible says on marriage. Here's what it says. So I'm totally fine to let that be. But my focus with them one-on-one is to grow them deeper in their knowledge of him so the Holy Spirit can work in them to will and do for his good pleasure. Okay? You can look up them. They are great. Lex and Rex, maybe something like that. They're a young couple, early 30s maybe. They're a young couple and they always have a lot of videos. Okay, I can do one more. Why doesn't God heal all people? Oof. Doo, doo, doo. Heal all people. Oh, okay. Let's get what is considered healing out the way.
Not exactly the answer, but if they don't get healed, that's not God rejecting them as a person.
Ah, yeah, but I still like it. Because I think that's an important thing to say. Because that's what people feel. Okay? I was in England. I don't know why I have so many stories. Apparently I do. I think you don't have it, just it's with age. You live and you meet more people. This is the problem, guys. When you become one of my friends, you end up in a story. Okay? So, but I was in England, and a young lady came to me, teaching at a high school. Alycia, why did God allow my father to die? She was about 16 years old. Her father was an alcoholic. He drank. They tried to get him help. He kept drinking and eventually drank himself to death. Why did God allow that to happen? Well, I don't have an answer for her. How do I know? Unless God gives me some download, what am I going to say to her? Right? When you're asking me specifically about your situation, that's where it's tough because I don't have any insight into your exact situation. But let's say I did. Let's say I went home that night, God gave me the answer, and I went back to her the next day. I said, guess what? I know why God didn't help your father. He told me. And it's because your father actually never wanted kids. And so when you were born and your brother was born, he didn't want to live anymore. So that's why God didn't heal. Isn't that great? He did what your father wanted. Now you have your answer. Isn't that great? You've been wanting to know. Guys, we make the assumption that if we know the answer to questions, it's going to make the situation better. There are times that God withholds the answers from us because it would make the situation worse. That's why you see in the Bible, he doesn't always answer the questions of suffering, even in the story of Job. He doesn't tell Job why he suffered. He never did. He never even addressed it. He said, Job, I want you just to take your eyes off your suffering and look back on me as the creator. That's what God did. He didn't even answer the question because the reality is we assume if we know why, we'll be okay with it. So what I'm going to want to say to this is, why doesn't God heal all people? I don't know. I don't know. I know he heals some, and other people beg and beg and beg and pray and pray and pray, and he lets them die. It's quite possible it wasn't his will. It's quite possible that had they lived another week, something actually worse would happen, and they would have been caught in a fire or something like that, and they would have died a horrible death, so he took them out early so they didn't have to experience that. I mean, I can come up with all these possibles, but I don't know. I think that there's times when we know that God does heal, but you're asking about the ratios. I don't know. But I like what you said here. This is important. Guys, remember, a lot of these questions have pain. They're asking this not because they don't want to believe in Christianity, but because grandma died 3 months ago and they were hoping God would heal her. Not that God hates you. It's not that he rejects you. It's not that you are evil or you're this or that. That may not be the situation here. So you want to find out more about what's going on. Don't just jump to an answer with this one, with suffering, hell. Don't just jump to an answer. Find out why they're asking something like that. Give yourself better context. But I love this idea of speaking the truth about the situation to address some of their pain in that. But the reality is God doesn't heal all people. And there's tons of reasons why he doesn't do that. So we can give people, like you said, it's not God's will. He's got a greater plan. There's reasons behind it. We can give them all of that. It just generally doesn't take the pain away, right? Doesn't take the pain away. Well done today, guys. Really good. Really proud.